You're listening to the realest. You're listening to the realest voice in progressive media. DJ Elf 7.
Yo, what's up? Check it out. We got a very special edition of DJ Elf 7 in the house today. We got our co-host, Taking Action Group, Lisa, way back, throwback right there. She's been super busy with her homeschooling program called Hyperion Academics. I'll let her talk more about that. And we got our guest, Red Sea Socialist, aka Sebs, and we're gonna be talking about some pretty cool topics today. Yeah. So, just quick, I'll let y'all introduce yourselves. Anything, platforms you're on, stuff like that. Go ahead.
So I am Sebs. Been on the show before with Ed. I consider Ed a friend of mine, although we disagree on things sometimes. I do value him very much, and I think that he has a good heart. So, despite what the haters say, just kidding. Ed is wonderful. And as far as platforms go, I'm on Twitter as Red Sea Cactus, and I also have a blog called Gnomes for number 4 and then Truth on Medium. So where I kind of just write about a bunch of things, from like biosecurity to African politics to anything, philosophy to anything. Kind of mix everything up together. So yeah, that's about it.
That sounds good. All right, Lisa, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, Lisa H. Former Tulsi volunteer, current founder and developer of Hyperion Academics, which is an online educational platform, K through 8. Very excited, interactive, a lot of gamification, and it's there to motivate the unmotivated student, which is unfortunately what most students are, because their curiosity has been killed by traditional education. So really looking forward to our soft launch and throwing out a couple of grades, and we will be full on running in January. So I'm really excited about that.
Cool. Give me a second right here. Okay, good. Okay. So actually today's episode, we're actually covering the topic, which is Tulsi a PSYOP? So the thing is that there's actually quite a few recent statements that Tulsi made that have been troubling, that have actually provoked some discussion. And, I think it's actually a worthy topic just in general, right? Because this community is hyper aware of, possible state involvement or other types of involvement within the movement, right? So let's talk about what are some of the concerns, right? I think that really Sebs makes the strongest case that Tulsi is a PSYOP, right?
Oh yeah,
okay.
I believe that she is.
So go ahead. Let's hear the.
Well, she wasn't really ever on my radar, as far as like during the the election season and stuff. But I don't really participate or really pay attention to that anyway. So it's not really. It wasn't like I wasn't paying attention to Tulsi. I wasn't really paying attention at all, just because it's just not something that I think is very useful. Because I feel like if you have a spot on that stage, it's for a reason, regardless of like how much they try to say, the establishment's against you or whatever. If they didn't want you on that stage, you wouldn't be on there. But that's just my opinion. So yeah, I never really paid much attention to her before. I knew that she had been in the military, and then when I was living in Hawaii, I did hear from people just in general saying that she had a kind of a weird past as city council, because she was like she was trying to pass these bills and that were very like anti-homeless. So it's like there was this one bill that she did get through when she was city council, and it was like a homeless sweep act, which was basically like they would have 24 hours to pack up all their stuff and like leave that that area. Otherwise, the next day they would come with the with the trucks and everything and like get rid of everyone's stuff. And I watched that happen several times actually in different parts of Honolulu, and it was quite disturbing and really sad. And you see the kids, with their parents sometimes, and they're just like, they're like they have like their documents there, whether it be like their birth certificates, IDs, whatever, and all that's just like being trashed. And it's a really like really sad, like just depressing thing to see. And it's just interesting that she was a big part of putting this type of thing through. So she was never even really that popular in Hawaii.
That's cool. I didn't know you lived in
Just
Hawaii.
from,
That's cool. Okay, interesting.
yeah, I did.
All
I
right.
did.
Wow, I have great work.
So
How long were you there?
I was there for almost a year. So
Okay.
I had to
That's
come
cool.
back after the pandemic situation, and
When were you there?
I was in Honolulu,
No, when?
I was
when?
on Oahu.
Like around what year?
like from 2019 to 2020.
Okay, so pretty recently. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah, while she was
Good to
running for
know.
president, actually. Yeah. So, which is why I found out that about this the homeless sweep thing that she kind of spearheaded, because when she was running, she just wasn't that popular with a lot of people. I'm not saying that people there didn't like her. You know, there's a big military presence there and everything, but just as far as like the average person. So
You have a lot more questions, actually. Yeah, I have a lot more questions.
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah,
I can't
for
wait
sure.
to find out more. Yeah.
So anyway, so that's kind of like that's what I knew of Tulsi, and so I didn't really think much more about her
Okay.
until just this past fall in September. She started tweeting and started making these statements on Fox News and and things like that about how she just came back from helping was it special ops forces in the Horn of Africa conduct anti-terrorist what is it called, like just anti-terrorist operations with special ops in the Horn of Africa. And I was like, okay, now this is weird. Now you've like just come to my sphere, and like now I have to pay attention to you. So I kind of did a little digging about what she was doing and how she moved from Hawaii to California to work for the Office of what is it, something affairs and psychological operations. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
What was it?
It's up in where the Presidio used to be, in like
Is
the.
it? It's in Mountain View, California, I think.
Yeah, it's close to. Yeah, it's close to there. It's close. To
Yeah.
there.
It's like
Very-
civil affairs and psychological operations, right? There's one in Fort Bragg as
very
well.
Close to Silicon Valley.
Yes, yes. So it's just so I started doing a little digging into what she was up to, or into just her history, the people she's associated with, whatever, and like holy shit, like this bitch is a psyop, like she had. And then I started thinking about other things, and I'm not saying like I'm sure, but it's just like that was just my initial thought from after doing all that digging, and it's like why else would she like with the feud with her and Hillary, right? And I'm not saying that I'm a fan of Hillary, obviously, but it's just like, was it almost like a part of like their operation to kind of like have her fight with Hillary? Because let's be honest here, Hillary Clinton does not have a good reputation in this country, in just worldwide. They try to pretend like she does, but she doesn't. Like if you talk to the average person, and I just thought that like, okay, so are they trying to like kind of pit them against each other to make her seem like she is anti-establishment? Like, like, oh, look, they're calling me a Russian agent. Look what the establishment's doing to me, to kind of like garner that support. So I just kind of started thinking about things like that. And I mean, I can go into more detail, but I'll let you respond.
I think already that's like a bit to digest right there. So that's good,
Yeah.
actually, a good amount. Now I have my response. Maybe Lisa wants to respond. Go ahead, Lisa. You want to say a thing? Or you want, yeah, either way. Because I was aware about this a little bit more. Like me and Sebs have been talking just a little bit before this, so I know this is very fresh for you. Like we're like, what? All of a sudden, yeah.
Well, some of it I did know. I have been very concerned about some recent statements that she's made. In particular, I was particularly horrified by her calling the death of a family that had been bombed, supposedly accidentally, collateral damage. And these were, little girls were running out to see their young father, who had just arrived, and their family got destroyed. And that's not collateral damage. That's murder. That is a shocking, that is a shocking result of a careless act at the minimum. And to say that, just to dismiss that as collateral damage as opposed to she's, you know, in a state of outrage that girls are, you know, are having to compete with transgenders.
Yeah.
I don't understand. It's like, how can you champion this one group of girls and dismiss the death of others? I don't understand it. I don't understand the logical throughput of that. I'm not sure if I'm at a place to call her a psyop, but I do understand that she was raised in a home where they were following basically a guru that was almost that many people in Hawaii basically labeled a cult. And you know, if you wanted to read, you know, I agree with Sebs, if you want to read, you know, critical things of Tulsi, you had to really go into Hawaiian papers and Hawaiian magazines. And there were people, Hawaiians, who were very...
Right. Not only was she part of a cult, but she was also part of a political family. Her father was actually some kind of big shot Republican guy who actually switched parties and went into the Democrats. So there was all kinds of weird stuff going on.
Yeah.
Right? So she wasn't just a normal citizen. She was the daughter of a big shot. You know what I mean?
Right.
And she was brought up as a big shot. She never... She had her own struggle, right? But it was never... It's on a different... She's always been kind of like protected. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, what I mean, one of the things that I've seen in at least Tulsi's past, and this is the reason why I don't think she's a psyop, is because she joined the military, right? And she was married at the time, I believe. And when she came back, her whole worldview had changed. Her whole worldview of, you know, she apparently, you know, very anti-gay, very and her entire worldview had changed. So much so that apparently it caused a divorce. It caused, you know, a lot of things to change in her life. And I feel like she is the type of person who, when she has a personal belief, follows that. But she also seems to be a very fiercely loyal person. Sometimes that stabs her, you know, herself. I mean, she ends up falling on her own sword because she has these fiercely loyal tendencies.
I did want to bring up 1.2. Remember when we were working on the campaign, and this was never reported, but all the local leadership, right, who was running different activities for Tulsi, were kicked out, and we think they were replaced by people from Hawaii. So that was very weird. There was a lot of weird stuff going on. Yeah.
You and I had this conversation about how everyone was from Hawaii, but no one was Hawaiian. Remember? Remember we had that conversation?
There was some weird stuff going on. So
we were like,
now,
everybody's from Hawaii, but nobody's Hawaiian. What's up with that? Like, I don't get it. Like, what? Yeah.
There was some odd stuff, you know what I mean? And I'd still like to compare the notes. And honestly, I think that one thing that we really all need, that one thing that I think that's real important for us to pay attention to is notice that one thing that's stayed the same right after Bernie, right, was before after Bernie ran, there was people from his movement like Nico House and stuff like that came out of that movement and created things. But remember, nobody came out of the Tulsi movement. In fact, it was very controlled. And the fact of the matter is that everybody stopped listening to the volunteers. Remember, Brendan Carpenter started the United Utah Party from the Yang Gang. Now that Yang's talking about third party, it should be automatic that Brendan Carpenter should be included in conversations, but now nobody's talking to him. It's very weird to me, right? It's not just me, right, or other people that are trying to enter the space. It seems like those avenues are shut in a weird way that may be coordinated, because it happens across the different movements. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Well, I also think that politics is a little different. You know, Yang is used to, okay, you march along and you do the right thing, you get rewarded, because that's kind of how tech works. Yeah. You know, but in politics, you can march along and do the right thing and still get your ass stabbed in the back. You know, and you know, that's a political thing. And it's like, okay, I did your dance, right? He did the minstrel dance and he still didn't get a reward for it. So like, he's like, well, F this then, I'll bring my people. But it's kind of like people, you're hopping from this to that, you know, through Dave Chappelle under the bus, you know, like all this stuff, and it's kind of like, all right, you know, people are getting a little tired of your wishy-washy. What's important, and I think that this is what people are waking up to, what's important are the groupings, the connections people are making, and the movement. Because, you know, Sebs, I don't know you. I know that you have a stronger relationship with Ed.
That's what I've exactly been saying, Sebs, right?
But the thing is that we were complaining that nothing was getting done in the Tootsie movement. We're like, it's almost like they're sabotaging themselves. We didn't get it. And then they were sabotaging us, all the things we wanted to do. And then I came to the realization after getting into it with the coordinator here in LA, and he got into it with the coordinator in New York. You know, we basically were doing the same thing separately, not even knowing that we were having these issues until we kind of connected. With each other.
It was extremely controlled. In fact, the Facebook pages were created like Tulsi, New York, Tulsi, and they said like, oh, if you're from another state, don't join here. And they tried to like put, all this weird shit was going on, which nobody's reporting on. And actually what might provide you more info for your thing, Sebs, or not, but also the stuff that's going on with Tulsi, I'm still, even with all that weird shit going on, right, I'm not sure how much control she even has in the game. So
that's part of the psyop, wouldn't it be? I just want to say, like, you mentioned loyalty, and I just want to say one thing on that point. But it's like, loyalty to what? You know what I'm saying? It's like loyalty.
That is the problem, because everybody's, look, she fell on her sword totally for Bernie. Totally.
I mean, but even beyond that,
she was right behind Deborah Wasserman Schultz. She could have been leading it. She could have been leading it.
But even beyond that, because she talks about her loyalty to the American people, right, and civil liberties, right? She's like a big civil liberties person, all right. How she doesn't want people to be designated as terrorists in, you know, or domestic terrorists in this country. But then she's going over to another part of the world and designating other people as terrorists and not really giving a fuck about their civil liberties. So I'm sorry, for me, like, if you're going to be in solidarity, right, it has to be global, because it has to be like on a human level or just nature. Like it can't be in, you know, within these borders, you know, we need civil liberties. Within these borders, oh yeah, we need targeted airstrikes for these terrorists. Okay, well, Tulsi, they're domestic terrorists in their own countries too, by the way. So it's like people don't think about it like that because they've been so desensitized. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to get like upset about it, but it's just it's just as upsetting to us. Yeah. It's just as upsetting to the Tulsi and if you look at all the Tulsi boards and stuff, and you know the Tulsi-crats and all of these, you know, different like and you know, from Convo Couch to all these different boards on Facebook where people are like, what's going on? What's going on? Why is Tulsi doing this? I can't support her anymore. And so everybody's like so flustered because they felt like she was the one person, but she seems to, again, it's that weird loyalty thing where she's a part of this group, she's a part of this team, and she wants to support this thing. Now, the one thing I really do like about Tulsi, the one thing I like, that when she does get enlightened, you know, when she does, you know, come to a point where she realizes, oh, I made a huge mistake. Not only does she make an about face, but she also does everything in her power to correct it. And I feel like I've seen that happen with her. And I know that, I mean, I've done it myself in my life where I've supported candidates who turned around and just were like horrible. And I felt like, oh my God, like, you know, I'm so sorry that I supported this person, or I'm so sorry I did this or that. And I feel like I know what that's like to kind of be severely disappointed in more than one candidate, but it's another thing to make a mistake and then to do everything in your power to correct it once you know that you've done that. And that is the reason, and one of the reasons why I still have this sort of glimmer of hope for Tulsi, because she does have a track record of doing that, and I feel like she could wake up to this too, because you're right, it's horrifying and it's wrong. I mean, just to get like people who are fighting, I mean, it's hard to know in a civil war like who's really, you know, right, who's really wrong. And right now, like there's
terrible ISIS is doing terrible things in Afghanistan, and they're doing, you know, all these other kinds of things. But why are we there? How are they going to be hurting us? How
Okay.
is this our? How is this
Who
our?
funded them in the first place?
What are
Who
we?
created
Yeah,
them?
You know,
exactly.
actually,
We did.
yeah.
Right. We did. And by leaving all that shit in Afghanistan, we've done nothing but arm these folks because
They
there
did
was
the same
so
thing in
much
Libya,
crap
you know?
there. Like it's like, yeah, they're
They did it in Somalia. They've done
or
it in
they've got
everywhere.
their currency has been destroyed, and now like the people can't even hardly afford food, and they're armed to the teeth. The worst combination possible.
Now, one thing, well, I do have like a conspiracy theory that I could like spin around this way as possible, but that's all supposition. So let's focus on like let's try to move forward, even if it is a psyop, right? Yeah, it can they'll by doing that they reveal what they want to accomplish, and we can better understand what moves they want to make, and how can we still win. Knowing this information, if it was a psyop, how could we design a strategy to win anyways? What do you think, Stubbs?
Well, it would have to be, I don't know about winning, but it would just have to be, as far as like her supporters go, who are still kind of, you know, rah Tulsi, and
Are they
I mean,
rah Tulsi, or are they
have to-
about the things that she
Well,
stood for?
they are about the things that they
Some
think
of
she
them.
stood for, right?
different
and then
groups,
they,
right?
they'll say, because now it's like the pivot, and this also requires some sort of understanding of what's actually happening in Africa. And I'm not trying to make everything about like an Africa thing, but this is just the reality, is that they are pivoting toward Africa as far as like the war on terror. They've been doing
They
it
are.
for some time, but they're like,
They are.
"Straight fuck
But there
up."
are reasons behind that because
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot of natural resources and a
Oh
lot of
yes,
it comes
certainly.
from China, and they can't access that. But the
Yeah.
other they can go to is Africa, and this was a real. This is a resource war.
The
Yes,
Tulsi
it is.
community has its own personality, and even though
Yes.
Tulsi isn't
It
saying
does, and
anything
I will
about the
say this is
vaccine,
another reason why
they're
I
going
like.
hard on that locals about like, yo, stop the vaccine mandate hard every
They
day,
are.
all day.
They are. But this is another thing I liked about the Tulsi community. I felt like it was made up of a bunch of really jaded people. And and I me being one of them, and I felt like, okay, here's someone that we think that we can be. I mean, even people like Mike Gravel, you know, like saying like she's one of the best candidates to come down the pike for a really long time. And a lot of people felt that way. But to say that we're all a bunch of sort of, you know, pie in the sky ideologues, like, no, these are a lot of people who left Bernie and went to Tulsi because they saw that she did something super hard and fell on her sword about it. And it wasn't just about power to her, because if she had stayed in the DNC, she could have, you know, basically, she would have gotten all kinds of power and resources and being able to, she didn't play that game. And
Or is she playing a different game? That's the thing. Or is she playing a different game? And I can't rule that out, especially considering like just back in 2015, she was giving a speech at the Christians United for Israel, saying how ISIS and Iran were the biggest threat to Israel, and that through her committee in Congress, that she was going to make sure that the ballistic missiles program in Israel was funded, and that it turned into a grant and not a loan. And this is in 2015. So it's like she's been saying this stuff. She's been doing this stuff. I didn't know this until recently, because I didn't really look into her like that. I didn't think about it until she really came into my radar, right? And then I like looked further into it, and it's like there's been a lot of people, especially from Southeast Asia, who've been complaining about Tulsi, who've been saying like, we feel like we're kind of being iced out. We keep getting called liberals if we try to criticize this person, but she, like, some of her views and some of the things that she's saying are really scary, and those people got ignored. So to me, it's just like, was it like it almost feels like, well, this is the perfect psyop, like this, because you leave out a bunch of information, you have this like faux fight with the quote unquote, you know, establishment, and then you're like, oh yeah, look, like they're leaving me out, I'm an outsider, whatever, gain more support because people love that underdog, you know. It's like creating the story, and I'm sorry, it's just, for me, it's like like when I'm seeing, because I don't have a dog in this fight. It's not like I went into it like hating Tulsi or like loving Tulsi. It's more just like I'm looking at this from the things, the information that's available to me, and the best that I can decipher it. So that's just my take.
Well,
on that.
either way, right? Yeah.
She's very pro-Hindi. she's very, very, very pro.
Well, let's take.
But- and with Modi and stuff, I will say this: there was, and I thought that this. I agree with you that I thought that some questions that people had were swept under the rug. If you go back relatively somewhat early in her political career, and you go to an interview that Glenn Greenwald did with Tulsi, he probes into those things actually, and he asks those questions, and in particular about Modi and different things. So he was basically on that way before, you know, anybody's kind of, you know, looked into different things. And so I thought that was very telling because he had really done his homework. She kept insisting that there were some issues and some terrorists, but it's, again, people think that they can bomb their way into peace.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Like,
It'll never happen. Yeah,
like targeted airstrikes in order to, you know.
exactly. It will never happen. It will never happen. And some of the things that really, you know, are disturbing to me is how, you know, we had these sudden deaths of people who were basically corruption fighters and turned things around, like the Tanzanian president. Like he's you know, basically calling out all the bullshit, clearing out all the corruption, and within 5 freaking years, 5 years, turned Tanzania into a middle-class country. It's like amazing, the turnaround. People were like, it was like this amazing thing. And the thing is that they have everything. They have the people, they have the resources, they have all this kinds of stuff. But one of the things that I fear was that it was basically, you know, like that book, what's the book? The book where they call the economic hitman, you know.
Oh, yeah,
but China following that, because the Chinese wanted to, you know, basically build a port, run it, and not give anybody else the use or the ability to make anything. They had to, like, and the president was like, only a madman would take this. This is crazy. And then he was dead within a year. It sounds suspicious to me, and I'm not someone who wants to, like, point fingers or.
Oh no, Magufuli's death is
at the same time,
from the beginning.
They like Africa has been strategic to China for a really long time, and now I agree with you. I think that it's the future battleground. Well, and what we're seeing now is they don't really want to destroy everything. They just want to create these, you know, they want to create chaos so they can go in and start plucking out resources.
Well, because all the chaos.
I'm so horrified. I'm so, like,
if you actually map out where all the chaos is happening, it's like exactly where the resources are. Like, if you map out like where all the uprisings are happening, it's literally like if you go to the Congo, if you go to Mozambique, you go.
Oh, that's what the Sudan was all about.
Yeah, it's literally every single part where the quote unquote uprisings are happening, or you know that's where the resources are. So it's just really interesting. Like, you can't, like, it's, to me it's almost like you have to think that we're stupid. Like, you have to like legitimately think that we're fucking retarded. Excuse me, but like to actually believe that this is what it's about. And so Tulsi kind of parading around saying that, and people don't know anything about Africa really, right? Because it's very much ignored. Like, which is just, if people don't know, that's fine. I'm not going to fault them for that. However, she's kind of using that to her advantage, and like, I see her supporters think, yeah, if she says that she's there fighting jihadists, that's what she's doing, and that's really scary. That's what Bush did. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is scary because this is a new, like, it's almost that's why I think she's a psyop, is because this is a way to get people on board.
Let's take a look at
trusted person saying this. You know what I'm saying?
Let's take a look at some other things that are going on with Tulsi right now. For example, number one, she said that about a year ago, right, that the podcast is supposed to come out, and it still hasn't come out yet. That book, I forgot the name. I think it's Tomorrow's Another Day or something like that, or is Today the Day? That book hasn't come out yet. So
the fact. Just kidding.
Okay, so the fact of the matter is, right? Anyone could say, why is it so hard for you to come out with a podcast? And you said you come out with one, and she'll have some excuses. But that actually brings questions as to if she even still wants to even be in the game anymore. Right? So she goes on Fox once in a while, like I think that she's going on tonight to say something. But she isn't really being picked up by any of the progressive news outlets. She's not even doesn't seem like she's reaching out to anybody or trying to create her own, right? She still has like a lot of subscribers, so she's not really doing much to type. She has like 1-minute clips. It seems like she's giving up.
She's been helping the special operations fight jihadists in East Africa. So, I mean, she's busy, you know? Busy. Just saying. Like, let's be very honest about what she's been up to. I understand she's a member of the military. I have my own thoughts about that. However, you know, it's just, like, that's what she's been doing. So, it's like I just want to call a spade a spade. Like, this, I mean, like, this is ridiculous. And saying, like, and gloating about it and saying it as, like, I don't know, and I understand maybe that's really how she feels, and I'm not even saying that, like, there aren't problems in those areas. It's just more, it's just not the way, and it's the new form of warfare, and I just don't trust it. I think she's gonna run, like, quite frankly, from some of the stuff that I've heard her say. I think she's gonna be running again. Not that it matters, because the machine's gonna operate the way the machine does, so it's not like Tulsi's, you know, doing all this stuff. It's like, no, I understand, with or without you, you know, the show goes on. But
do you think she has a chance?
Oh yeah, she
Remember that Bernie had Our
support.
Revolution. He had all this other stuff going on. Tulsi does not. In fact, let's look at where. Okay, we'll look at one of the probably most competitors, or someone who's in a very similar lane to Tulsi, would be Nina Turner, right? Actually, I would say that she's the main competitor to Tulsi, and AOC. I say they're kind of like vying for a similar spot. You get what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what did Tulsi Pack do? Because Tulsi Pack is the thing, all right?
Yeah, she turned her donations into a super PAC, right?
She donated some of those she also returned some money, which I respect, right? But she
did.
Yeah, but she also donated money to Nina Turner's campaign, so that was interesting, right? So in some way they're working together, right? They might just be co-workers and stuff in a way. Yeah,
they could be hucksters together. Who knows?
People
Sorry.
people who are playing on opposite teams, right? And as pro hockey players may have more in common or sympathize with each other more than you, right? So even though they're playing against each other on TV, you know, so that's so yeah, some interesting questions right there. So what do you think? Yeah, I think that there are some. So right now, didn't she recently criticize like Virginia like results or something? She was like, it's Democratic. She's kind of criticizing the Democratic Party or something. She's like due to their. So, I think she's going Republican. What do you think?
Maybe libertarian or something. Maybe she'll be in the Forward Party. You know.
She hasn't. She's alienated a lot of libertarians with her complete silence on the vaccine mandate. In fact, she's lost almost all of her support.
She was for the contact tracing. She wanted people to...
Well, you think that's going to be a huge problem for the libertarians.
The Hawaiians were like stupid crazy on that stuff. They were just like really... I mean, there were some things that I saw that actually I went where she was giving kind of a Zoom talk, talking to people and addressing their concerns, which I thought was, you know, very involved. I mean, we don't have that here, and we don't have that here in LA, and people doing stuff like they were pretending to do things when people were calling them on it. But it's, I do feel like, you know, sometimes people, like I said, you know, she's very loyal, and she has this sort of true believer mentality. And you just said something, Sebs. You said maybe she's a part of a side, but she doesn't really realize that she is. I think that could possibly be.
I think on this Africa thing, there's no real excuse.
I think that she's being, you know, led to believe something, and you know, she likes the people that she's with, and she feels that they are, you know, that they have convinced her that this is a noble cause. At the same time, you know, I think that there could be a wake-up moment. I don't know what that will be, but I feel personally, and I know this sounds just kind of like, you know, it might sound a little bit irrational, but I feel slightly on edge because I feel like there's a shoe about to drop. There's something about to happen, and that a stage has been set. And I don't know exactly what it is or what it will be, but I feel that something is going to happen that will distract people and then make certain other things happen, and maybe catch us by surprise a bit, just to change the conversation, because everybody is now, with, I'm big into education right now, and how a lot of things start in education. They start things with kids, because kids don't have strong advocates, and
So you want control of the kids.
I'm just a little worried that there's going to be some strange military action, and then everybody's going to be all whooped up into some like rah bullshit,
Yeah. Actually, one thing I just want to mention before we move the topic, right, is that one person I want to talk to is Lisa from Nevada, right? She really hasn't been on as much, but the thing is that there was something going on where they had people signing NDAs in ways that they hadn't had them sign them before, and there's a lot of changes being made to the way volunteers are allowed to interact with the campaign, and that's just not being talked about, and this is a real issue, and actually a sign of troubling sign for grassroots activists out here.
Yeah, that's nothing that they'd ever done before. So it's like,
it's achieved new levels of suppression
with the Democratic Party. What the hell?
So before, yes,
talk about what happened in the caucus after it's done. That's insane.
Nevada has a caucus, so historically, right before, they didn't have like delegates, right, sign the NDAs, but now they were trying to make even Tulsi supporters. They even made the Bernie people try to do it too. So we were trying to resist that shit.
Right.
Weird. I mean, isn't it supposed to be like an open thing? Like this is supposed to be free, fair, open.
That's the whole point of it.
Like transparent.
And Sebs, you know how I be yelling at Convo Couch, because Convo Couch also did not pick up this story, or Jimmy Dore, or none of them. Sebs, right? Yeah.
Did you brought this up to them?
Hell yeah! Oh my god, I emailed them like crazy. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's unfortunate. That's.
And also, right, remember that Fiorella, right, brought up an issue inside the Bernie campaign, and I had very similar complaints. So I thought that, like, that was my, I thought they would, like, at least listen. That's why I was, like, but they noticed that they completely shut it out, you know what I mean? And this is, Lisa Ray will tell you. She was my co-host. Go back and watch the shows, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We were all over this shit.
No, that's really odd that you would have to, that's really weird. And I don't know why they wouldn't pick that up. What was the...
And notice the same thing in the Yang Gang, and the same thing in the Bernie camp now. It's a new forced reality, which is different now than was before. There's a new level of control being exercised.
Yes, by the alternative media.
Yeah,
to a degree.
I want you to know about that.
Know
about
Bernie
it, for real.
I mean, I don't know about you, your areas, but Bernie won California. You know what I mean? So Bernie team out here is freaking. It's
I mean,
set
it doesn't
up,
make sense that he
and
was
there was
to
a
win.
lot of that.
It was actually fair.
I mean,
like, let's be real about it. Like he
right,
would have won.
But
like,
he won California.
Not because I like him, but it's just.
No, but
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just.
But his
foreign policy was atrocious too, but it was more.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But he was the most popular candidate by far, like 100%. Like it doesn't make sense that Joe Biden won. It just doesn't. It's like okay, like this really is like if people didn't know before, like I hope they know now because it doesn't make any sense.
It's ridiculous.
Bernie didn't win, but yeah.
Yeah, I know, and
doesn't.
Joe Biden is the last person that black people should be voting for.
Oh, I don't think that they did. I really don't think that they did.
Last person.
I don't even know why they keep stressing like this black vote. Like, don't put that shit on black people.
Exactly.
Like, please don't. Like that shit. Like,
exactly.
Take that. Go.
Completely. I know. Stomach turning. I couldn't do it. Yeah.
But I am jealous of how black women have such a strong voting record, and they vote in such great percentages, and they have very good levels of involvement. If other groups like could involve themselves at that level, we would have less problems.
Most of COC is made up of black women. It's the vast majority of it.
Yeah. I don't think that it's for me at this point, at this stage, from the way that I'm thinking about things, I don't think that electoral politics is the answer. I think that we literally just have to start doing things on our own.
I agree with that, and I think that
I agree, and that's why I think that it's like what Buckminster Fuller used to say: don't try to change the existing systems. Create something else that obviates the need for the other, and that's the way I see it. That's what I feel like I'm. That's why I'm starting with what I'm creating.
I
and
think
making systems. easier for people to transition.
I think it's somewhere Tulsi descended on something, maybe not on all the things, but maybe she descended on one critical thing. I think she's been out, she's been cast aside, and I think she's done, and I think she realizes it too. I don't know why she's still hanging out with these little minute clips on whatever Fox she's going on. Maybe they're paying her, but you know, her podcast, the book is not coming out. You know, she's just
You know what? I agree with Sebs, and I agree with you in that I think that she's going to run again, but not right now. I think, you know, remember, Tulsi's young, you know?
She's strong as hell, man. She's like Wonder Woman. She's strong as hell. I've met her.
And so she's got a good 20 years. She could run again in 20 years. And the people who feel...
I mean, physically, right? She's strong, but mentally, I don't know. Yeah.
When I met her, she was running around. Yeah, she was.
Oh, physically, absolutely.
Day, yeah.
I mean,
she's like a super athlete. She's amazing. So she could run again in 20 years after, you know, she could have kids, raise them, do the whole thing, and then return, and people will be perfectly fine with that.
I don't think she could.
I think she could. Yeah.
I think all she has to say is, you know, free Assange and let's get out of Syria, and then everyone's like, yeah, great, and then she's like, oh, but let's get into Africa though.
Everyone?
not everyone. You know what I mean? Just her loyal sycophants who, you know, zombies kind of latching onto. That's just
that's what I mean. I mean, when I tell you that most of her people, and I have to tell you, like, you're right. She does have some people like that. I mean, there was one guy that I met, that this dude, I swear to God, if she wasn't running for something, I swear to God, this dude would have been a stalker. Because he had all these like pictures of her and stuff.
Oh,
it was weird. But, you know, I just feel like most of the people that I've met, you know, in the Tulsi campaign are actually pretty jaded. Like, that's the one thing everybody
You did say that. You made that point.
And they feel that of all the people that have come down the pike for a while, she's been one of the best. And it's because they've seen her do really, really hard things that they don't know anybody else would do. I mean, Bernie didn't do it.
Mm-hmm. But then, I mean, then
I
you're leaving out like a huge sector.
I used to call Tulsi Bernie with a backbone.
Yeah.
I used to call Tulsi Bernie with a backbone.
But the thing is, like, she's saying she's doing all that, and she's saying the Assange and the Syria and let's get out of Iraq and Afghanistan thing, but then she has a completely different position on another part of the world that is largely ignored. And to me, that's just like, it's like, because her stance on what's going on in Africa is totally different than how she's treating the Middle East at this point. So for me, it's like, if you're not going to be doing it on a global level, go fuck yourself. Frankly, I don't give a shit.
I'm gonna slip in a little more information right here.
That's just me.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, you know, actually, recently I went to Albany with my boy Mark right there on the disability stuff. I don't know if you saw the video. You seen that?
No, I didn't.
It's okay. All right. So when he went there, actually he wore a lei. I don't know if you saw that right when he went to testify. You saw that? Yeah?
Okay.
So the thing is that he actually contacted, I believe, Mike, who's Tulsi's dad, about that. And he got the go-ahead and everything was cool, right? So in solidarity with him, I wore my Tulsi shirt, stuff like that, right? But I think I'm on a do not announce list for real, because even though they had the go-ahead, and I'm sure that, you know, the testimony in Albany with their supporter would be a newsworthy event, right? It was actually, I did not write. I let my paid subscription lapse, and I did not post about it, and it was not talked about. So I know that I know they watching, but they're not. This one they're gonna let it ride. All right.
No, it makes sense. I mean, I'm not
That's
not
what it is.
hating on the people. Yeah, it's more just like, I don't know. It's
The
just I can't excuse things. I
The
can't
grassroots
excuse
is on the side. That's okay. You know
for
what
the
I mean?
sake of other things.
I think it's a good thing to call it out.
Yeah,
I'm
because
hoping,
if it was
like I
Pete
said-
Buttigieg, right, or AOC, people would be saying, like, you know, oh, like these psyops, frauds, whatever, and it's like, yeah, absolutely, I agree. Fuck Pete Buttigieg, fuck AOC, right? Fuck Bernie, quite frankly, but also fuck Tulsi. So that's just kind of where I'm at. It's like I'm not saying that people didn't have good intentions going into it. I'm not, and my criticism of her has nothing to do with so much the people that like supported her. But at this point, it's like when she's really kind of amping up the quote unquote, you know, like the airstrikes and this and that, the jihadists that we need to fight, and these borders are open. Like this is a danger to our country. Like we need to protect Americans. it's like now it's just like, okay, so what's your deal here?
You know,
Like,
I
what's the
can't on
you
that
know?
stuff. You know, I feel like, you know, I also come from a war background, war refugee background, so I'm you know, very you know, sympathetic. But I also feel like she also pointed out the, you know, National Intelligence Agency involvement in campaign, you know, manipulation. I thought that was pretty huge. So I don't want to take away everything.
While she's like, but while
Yeah.
she's doing a national campaign to of manipulation to like make the militarization of Africa normalized, I cannot get past that. To me, that is like, that is a big no-no. I don't care where it is. It's like, if you're for civil liberties for Americans, but you don't give a shit about the civil liberties of other people across the board. So to me, it's like, then who are you?
You're right. I
What's the
think that's
point
problematic.
here? What are we
Here's-
doing here?
Okay,
That
here's
is
something that
problematic.
that right.
I will say this. If let me just interject.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
If you know anything about Daniel Ellsberg, right? He was like a cretin of the cretins. Like he was like really involved in the Vietnam War and really involved. And the dude had a turnaround. He was really involved with like deep state. Like, oh, he was like a cretin, dude. He was cretin, and he did a turnaround and basically, you know, smuggled out these Pentagon papers and exposed it all. He was an insider and exposed it all. I'm really hoping that we have that moment with Tulsi, that
Yeah.
she, as an insider, exposes it, because she has a history of that. She exposed
Yeah.
a lot of things with the DNC. She's exposed a lot of the other stuff. I see that she has a track record of doing that, and so I still have hope with her, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of other terrible people doing stuff. I mean, let's face it, Sebs. What's going on with Africa? This isn't a recent thing. You know,
Oh,
it's
no,
been going
absolutely
on for
not.
decades and decades and decades.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it's okay. It doesn't mean.
No, it
yeah.
doesn't mean it's okay. It's absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
But the thing is that this has been going on for a really long time, and frankly, we need somebody to expose it, and expose it in a way from the inside who really knows that. But that means she would have to completely leave her career in the military, which she
Oh, yeah.
liked. So it's
I mean, she's doing
it
special
stands-
ops. It's like, you know, but it's almost
know,
like
I know.
this is
So
like
it's
people
hard to know.
Donald Trump who
Hard to
say
know
like,
where this
he's
is gonna go.
exposing the deep state by like, you know, encouraging this. It's like, okay, like it's like if he's playing 4D, 12D chess, and it's like for me, like I just don't really, I don't have that in me. I really like, quite frankly, there aren't really any politicians that I do support. I do think that to a certain degree you do have to be bought off to even be in those types of positions. I'm not saying that people can't change. I really do hold on to that. I think every single person, no matter how horrific and heinous that actions that they've taken, I think that they're capable of change. And I believe that wholeheartedly. So I will always hold that in my heart for anyone, no matter what it is that they do. But it's just, at the present moment,
I think Tulsi
I don't like
gave
the
up.
bitch.
I think Tulsi
So,
gave up straight up.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know about that.
Did you see that email recently where she showed off her studio again?
Mm.
Okay, it's okay. Maybe she didn't give up all the way. Yeah, but she got other stuff. She's been working a long time. Yeah, but you know, also one of the things that just to get to my conspiracy theory a little bit, and maybe just take from words she said herself, because I was watching an interview with her. She was in some live Q&A, and she was asked like how she, what news sources she uses to like learn about or make her decisions. So one group she mentioned was this group called the Quincy Institute. You ever heard of that? I never heard of it either. I was like, what the hell is this Quincy Institute shit?
what
You know
is
what I mean?
that?
So I looked it up, right? I'll actually share my screen. Let me see if I can pop that up for a second. Okay. Give me a second. Quincy Institute. Okay, let me share my screen. Oh, let me bring this up. Okay. Now it really does look like some CIA type of shit. Okay, so hold up a second. Okay, so let me get to this, share my screen.
She was in Council on Foreign Relations, correct?
Let's
Yeah,
talk about what
no,
that's all about too, because that's definitely an issue that pops up from
resigned.
time to time. That's definitely a concern. Okay, so bam, I'm gonna share this right here. Okay, you see this Quincy Institute right here? Okay, this is the website right here. I'm gonna go. Okay, so now I'm gonna click on some stuff over here. Let's go to about. Okay. Also, Chi, right? Yeah, could be looked at that right. Could be some Chinese reference, maybe not, right?
Yeah, interesting. I thought I saw the same.
Okay, you saw
thing.
that, right? Yeah, I think they're trying to
Yeah.
be cute, whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
They do that shit sometimes.
The co-opting. Yeah,
They
whatever.
do.
Okay.
They love to co-op.
Let's go to their team right here, And it goes down to, but let's go to see who's at the head of this shit. Okay, the president is from West Point and Princeton and served in the army. And remember that Tulsi's in the army, right? So I was like, who's this person popping off about the National Intelligence Agency? They got to have something behind them. So I'm thinking maybe the army branch, maybe they're a faction, right, going off against, maybe making their own play. I don't know, right? But look at this right here, right? But then you look at some of these guys down here, like this Ahmed Khan, active career in the public and private sectors, including a wealth of experience from political campaigns, government service, and international relief work. Wow, that sounds like a spy for real, right?
Bro.
This guy doesn't sound like a spy or what? I mean,
Very
come on.
tricky.
Come on. I mean, what do you think, right? So, I mean, it's, yeah, what do you think? Anyways. Yeah, so you guys can look that up.
Interesting.
More. Yeah, I mean, hey, she talked about it, right? So, I think that's recorded. Go find that, yeah. So, I actually signed up for the Twitter feed to I just want to see what they talk about. And see
It's
what
almost
happens.
like she knew all the right things to say to garner support.
Is that
I'm
going to
sorry.
garner support? I mean, that's kind of
It
weird.
did when you're talking about the national security state and this is what we've done and blah blah blah. It's like, oh yeah, like she's so right. She's so right. She's like, yeah. So we need to go kill jihadists in Somalia. Yeah. It's like it's like classic psyop. It's like you throw some truths in there, you know, but then there's that core of like your intention, like whether she knows it or not. That's kind of just what it seems like to me. I know I keep going back to that, but it's it scares me. I think that's why I feel so aggravated by it, because it genuinely, like, it frightens me.
I get what you're saying. I'm not a fan of imperialism, and I know, like, her actions out there is causing pain right there, right? But she's on the front lines, and I'm not, but I understand your criticisms, and even if she is a psyop, right, I still want to interface with that community, because that community is sympathetic towards the same ideals of a faction of them, right? Maybe even most of them, maybe not most of them. That's all up to debate. Who knows, right? But some of them most of them I probably think are for the ideals first, and they'll stick with the program, right? As time goes on, right? We've been part of. Oh, you know what? Actually, one thing about Lisa that I really like is she actually worked with Ross Perot's campaign. Now, remember, Ross Perot had a much less hands-on, control-y way. How did Ross Perot do it?
Totally, a lot less. I mean, he basically let people open up what they wanted. Said, okay, if you do that, you know, I'll fund it, whatever. I'll just, I'll pay for the phone bills, pay for that, and just let people run. And when people left the Brown campaign, they came over to Ross Perot's campaign and started working into it. So it became this sort of amalgam of all this, the Brown campaign, the Ross Perot campaign, a bunch of libertarians came in, like all this sort of amalgam of people. And the place that I had walked into, that, I thought, oh, I want to, yeah, it's funny, because I thought, okay, I'm going to be the only black person here. And I walked into it, and who walks out? A black woman. She was running she was a nurse, and she was running that particular campaign, hoping that here's someone who really understands what's really going on, and this is what, will get. And he, gave people a run for their money. Like, he did pretty well. But again, it was like grassroots thing. Not everybody. I mean, people used to make fun of him. They used to make fun of him. Called him a little, like, called him all these funny names, draw things on his little stand-up. They had this little cutout of him. It was funny. But that he was willing to go the distance, like, people were cool with. And again,
consistently, right,
there
across
was
the
no
board.
hands-on stuff whatsoever. It was totally grassroots.
In progressive media, right, consistently, instead of hearing from experience, right,
and this is
we
the other
hear
thing.
from people like that are newbies,
This is the other
right?
thing.
In this
He
game.
said to people, I will run if you get me on the ballot in all 50 states. And I can't tell you, this is hard, you guys.
They did it.
This is hard for people like that. And they did it. So grassroots is that's what it's about. And then it's unfortunate that people didn't say, hey, let's keep our group together and let's do it. I mean, they started the Reform Party, but then that never really got any traction because it was all really disjointed, But I think that, people are starting to see these things again and then rethink that. So I, you know,
Yeah.
I have my serious problems with Yang. Thought he was very dangerous in a lot of ways. So did, you know, obviously so did Ed. But the one thing that we thought about, and if you think Yang Gang's big out there, you should come out west, man. Yang Gang, oh my God. He brought in thousands of people when he would speak.
The crypto bros love him too.
But the thing is that this is what I said, you know, before about the Yang Gang people. He lit the Asian, particularly the young Asian political pilot light. And with that is a new group of people to be accessed who have their shit together and can really, when they come together, which they don't often do, but when they come together, can really make shit happen. And so I think that we have these
what
different
happened.
factions
Though, you
in
know? That's the only. That's the scary.
well, that
part.
was it. That was the thing. They thought that they had this sort of messiah, you know,
Oh, and
and
Yang.
it was bullshit. But the
Yeah.
thing is that the group itself can really, really do something. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of politics and a lot of money out here. That's maybe a little bit different than on the East Coast. It's a
'cause-
lot of new money out here.
Actually,
And
I don't know if you know, Lisa's right next to Jimmy Dore. She's actually right there.
yeah, he's not far. And Combo Couch people too. I see them all the time when I used to go out to places. Yeah, they're on the street. I like Combo Couch. They are on the street. They are on the street. They do go out. I see them on things. And,
Things broke down
and
between
you
us.
know what? Yang Gang people
Yeah.
too. Yang Gang people too.
Oh, wow.
They come out. They come out. And the thing is, that's what you have to respect, the people who come out in the street who are there all
Yeah.
the time. So, you know, because in a serious way, they make it happen. Funny things happen though when they start getting attention and they start getting, you know, a little bit of fame. You know, people all of a sudden get a little conservative, and they start changing. They start changing pretty rapidly. But there's a lot of new wealth out here. There's a lot of different political things happening out here. And so, like I said, there's a lot of Asian political muscle out here. There's a lot, you know, the black vote, very important to win any kind of city politics.
What do you think is going to happen in 2022? You think the Republicans are going to get to take over?
No,
I don't think it
not in
matters.
California. Not in California. Maybe in other places, but I don't see like they're not going to see anything change. I mean, what
No,
has
what is the
What
difference
has
between the?
Biden done that's different from Trump? What has
Nothing.
Biden done? Name 3 things.
He just expanded everything else that Trump was already doing. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't-
exactly.
like Trump sets him up. Obama set up Trump.
That's
and
right.
you know, Bush set up Obama. It's just, you know, Clinton set up Bush. It's
These
just
parties
it's like
put their judges into place.
The machine, yeah, the machine does what the machine's gonna do.
Well,
That's
I will say this: Trump killed TPP. He killed it. Poop, boom. He killed it.
Yeah.
It was barreling ahead, and he killed it. One fell swoop.
He's
We
still
don't
put
see
a bunch of
anything
other-
like
yeah.
the first. We don't see anything like the First Step Act coming out of it.
But Operation Warp Speed, which was set up for him through the Cures Act from Obama. So it was, you know, and then and here we are. It's like
Science
using,
fiction. Let's use science
literally
fiction.
just like
Some science fiction.
deregulating like clinical studies,
Fuck reality.
just like straight up, like just gutting, like I don't know. I mean, it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Let's use the Force next
How the-
time.
But I hear you. I just think that it would operate the same way regardless of who's there because they've made it run that way. Like the bureaucracy of it is set up a very specific way. So it doesn't really matter. Like you can have the AI run it at this point. I think that's what they want ultimately, to be honest. Like these decentralized autonomous organizations or whatever they're called, DAOs. Just
And-
like
But Seb's, you know, this is one of the things, and this is why I think that James and Ed are on track with this sort of like combining all these things and working locally. We had a local race here with a woman who ran for city council. Believe it or not, we had national figures coming in with endorsements at a city council race.
why?
That's the things that, ask
Yeah.
yourself why.
Nancy
Why?
Pelosi,
Who
right?
is she?
Why Hillary Clinton came to endorse
this other
Oh,
this
hell
guy
no.
at the city council and Nancy Pelosi.
Because she's by
And
Hollywood.
Bernie came on the other side. And it's kind of like, why are you so against this person? Because she's saying she's seriously into homeless, services, and wants to get people housed, real housed, and do all the and there's a lot of politics with development here in LA.
I bet.
That she wants a public bank. She wants people to be able to have a say in where they live. She wants to be able to, like she was saying, and we did. We created it. We created a public bank. We did. We got these things, and now things are really pushing. Where this is so much to the point now, where because I worked on I was making a documentary for a couple of years on how difficult it was just to get the basic stuff for police interactions and stuff, just get basic laws passed.
Mhm.
And now you've got assembly members in California going to these same groups saying, give us something that we can pass through law, give us ideas so we can create bills. Instead of the other way around, we've got the staffers going to the agencies and saying, think of more things that we can do. We're
cool.
already calling down.
That's wonderful.
But this is a grassroots thing. This was like a serious grassroots thing.
Yeah.
But I see it in the zeitgeist, and I see it as a window.
Mhm.
And it's because when things happen in California, it tends to move the rest of the country because we have so many people here. And what's happening really is that the extractive economy has gotten so large that we can't afford it anymore, and we have to start shutting down certain things. You can't say, oh, you who did this, you who stood joint and had a pot plant and got snitched on by a neighbor who lost your kids and got thrown in jail, and now you have a felony on your record. You're like, you can't now ever increase your income above a certain level because you've been hobbled. And now they're saying, oh, we did that to literally millions of people, and now we don't have enough money to keep our shit going. And now, oops, sorry. Do you know that the DA that we put in place now, that we got rid of that freaking bitch, Jackie Lacey, right? And there's a whole history to that.
Yes.
He just exonerated. He just basically expunged 600,000 convictions for marijuana. We had something that we passed in a state law years ago saying that people could expunge it. And every time people went to court to try to do that, the DAs kept trying to trip them up and try to do different things. Now, then when they passed it, they kept giving people sales charges instead of use charges, so they would have to go up to a level. They just did it. They just did another sticky shit thing. And so now what we're doing is we're enabling people to be able to work now. It's a little too late because these people have had it for decades, but now they can get jobs as they couldn't before. They can get licenses that they couldn't before. So this is what's happening on the grassroots level, and that's what's got to happen, because that's when the earthquakes happen on the ground.
I agree with you. However, I will say, as far as from what I've been looking into as far as prisons, right? And they're changing the idea of what prison is. And all those people that were invested in all these prison bonds and all that, they're moving their money to investing in social services. So I do think that they are changing the scope or the way in which they incarcerated people. But I think they're going to be amplifying it to the larger population with geofencing and programmable money, and having everything that you all the information that's about you on your phone or on a blockchain or whatever, and then they can pretty much control where you go depending on it's because there will be no cash. And I know that seems kind of like a faraway place, and it's oh well, no, but this is a good win, and it's
No,
okay, is this the win, or are they doing something else?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's because it's well, why would he do that? Why would who is that DA? Why would he do that? That's interesting. What's the move here? Because I just don't trust these people. So even if something seems good, for me, it's I'm the person that's wait, hold on. I need to know exactly why they're doing this. And then you see even Bill Gates is moving his money from the prison industry to social services, right? And mental health help, and putting people on pathways, and pre-crime, and fixing people before something goes wrong, and doing DNA and genetic surveillance on them. So it's when you put all these pieces together, it's what might seem like a win. And I'm not saying that like that's wonderful. Yeah, he should expunge those things, and those people should be able to get whatever licenses, and they shouldn't have to pay for something like that for the rest of their lives. So
Right.
I understand like where you're coming from, and like
To begin with.
I get that, yes, but then when you look at it in like a broader perspective of like where these people are moving their money now and where it seems like things are headed, it's like, wait a minute, like, is this a sign of something else to come? You know what I'm saying? It's like, if I can't even go without my health passport to, you know, to or my updated booster or whatever to like this restaurant or this grocery store or whatever, I don't need to be in prison because I'm confined here. So I know that maybe sounds really dark, but I don't know.
No, but that's what's happening, and it's happening worse in LA because they're
that
doing it ahead. Like LA is a big testing ground.
it is
I was
the
just
microcosm.
telling Ed, right before you came in, I was
Mhm.
just telling Ed that the Los Angeles Unified School District has mandated vaccines for all the kids 5 and up, and it's not just 12 and up; it's 5 and up. And everybody has to, in order to go, everybody has to be vaccinated by next semester. So it's by January, which is one of the reasons why I'm hurrying to put my online educational platform together, so people who want to get out have somewhere to go.
Mhm.
You know, I was just saying to Ed right before you came on
Yeah.
that it's over 16% of Black families now homeschool, and it's increasing all the time. People
Yeah.
are yanking their kids out because they're scared, and they have a reason to be scared.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm hoping that I've never seen anybody else on the main stage not completely, you know, just give up from, like, remember Kamala Harris, she came from California, you
Oh,
know,
God.
like a bunch of other people, and
Lord.
you know, Buttigieg is not from California. Dude cycles through California because he's all up in, you know, Mark Zuckerberg's shit. I mean,
Like
he's
the technocrats and
gotten a lot of money. He's gotten a lot of money from Silicon Valley, and now it's one of the first places people can go. Why? Because they don't just have the ability to fund you; they have the ability to literally direct everybody else away, deflect anybody else from happening.
He
And
teaches
did it
Mark how to drink water.
did it to Tulsi, and that's how we know, and that's why she's saying she hit the third rail when she said we need to break up big tech, and that was, you know, that's a third rail right there.
Yeah. I mean, you can say all these things, but that's all rhetoric, right? And then it's like your actions afterwards, and like, and what you mean by that. And it just like it's hard for me to just like take people's words as anything but just words at this point. And of course that's all you can do is you know, try to analyze it to the best of your ability, right? Like, it's not, you'll never like really know, but it's more just with the politicians in general, whether it be Tulsi or Kamala or whatever. I feel like they are just like such big distractions, and I feel like there's people in Congress, it's like, that are doing actually much more sinister things and getting things passed on like a bipartisan you know, just from a bipartisan view and or support, and like those are the things that no one really looks at because it's like no one's squabbling about it. So then like the real sinister shit kind of like flies under the radar, and then everyone's just kind of like talking, well, we need Medicare for all, even though they've never actually like read the bill or, you know, looked into it or who like wrote it.
Right.
So yeah, so it's just I feel like there's just so many layers to things, and like I mean, the only reason why Tulsi came in my radar anyway is because I pay attention to a lot of the news in Africa. So that's kind of how that.
I'm as horrified as you are when I heard her say. I mean, like I said, that to me, her saying that, using those actual terms, collateral damage, I just I almost lost it. Like, I almost like vomited. Like, what? I mean, she is the very last person that I thought those words would come out of her mouth. And I'm just hoping that, since she does have a track record of saying, you know, not only doing a big turnaround, but actually falling on her sword for what she believes is the correct thing to do. I still have hope out there.
But Lisa, knowing, working with the Tulsi campaign, you know what's going to happen. We're going to send up a concern, and then there's going to be no response, right?
Yeah.
if she wants, she was behind before, and she won a lot of her races when she was behind, and then at the last minute caught up. So she has a pretty good track record. So just because she's like a lot of her peeps, and I've heard them talking, it's like they're used to her being behind in the beginning, because and then winning her race at the very end. She came out from behind in so many races that she ran.
I
And
still feel weird about it, right?
whoa,
How did
So,
she?
but-
How did she
but I-
lose Samoa to Bloomberg? That
Well, she
seems
didn't
so
even
weird to me.
And the thing is, well, I mean, here's the thing.
Doesn't that
Every
seem weird to you?
Dude, because he has so much damn money that
Bloomberg,
every
yeah,
other,
is-
he literally
he is under the
soaked
radar, but he is a
airways.
sinister
He's
motherfucker.
soaked. Oh God, he's a
God,
maggot.
he's
a
horrible.
hor- he's a
Horrible.
maggot with eyes.
Jesus
He's
Christ.
he's
He's
horrible.
almost worse than Bill Gates, honestly.
Oh God, he's awful.
He
Ugh.
might be worse than Bill.
He's horrid. He's just and you know what's
Got his
great
hands
is
in
that
everything.
everybody hates him. That's what the great thing is.
Yeah, it's true.
Everybody
It's like a
hates him.
unified
So
hate.
he's gonna get all that money. He spent so much money. He literally soaked the airwaves out here. Every other
Yeah,
advertisement.
remember that? I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, that was heavy.
Yeah,
I was
no,
like,
and,
yo,
still, and
this
people
guy's
still
got
didn't
money.
want it.
And
Like,
people
no one
still didn't
liked
want him. People still didn't want
Well,
him.
he didn't help himself with that debate right there. I bought paid for Congress.
I mean, and the thing is, there is no, if he loses, he's still a billionaire. So like, what does he care? He can do whatever he wishes. He knows he has how much power he has.
They have
You know,
access to a lot
he
of
doesn't
data.
just have his billions. He has a media circus to be able to do as much promotion or whatever as he wishes. And so he knows the power that he has. Why do you think everybody look, you guys, what you guys don't know in LA about LA is that Silicon Valley is moving south. Everybody from that
Texas.
area is moving down here, and they're buying up the city like crazy.
Mm.
Google literally bought like got a mall in the center of the city, a mall that used to have a Macy's on one end and a Nordstrom's at the other, and has this mall that they've been basically developing as their main headquarters. They're going to make one of the parking lots, and we have huge parking lots here, right? Because everybody drives. They're going to make one of the parking lots a private park for their employees.
Mm.
And this is in the center of the city, right? Midtown.
I believe it.
So this is just they have done so much on the area next to the beach, because we have pretty nice beaches here too, that they're coming inland now, and so they're basically from movie studios. And the thing is, sky's the limit. Somebody wants a certain amount of money to make a movie, they don't care. There you go. They don't care. They're
Oh, yeah,
giving
I mean,
everybody-
Silicon Valley is
they're giving
international.
everybody. Why? Because
We're everywhere.
all of the money is going into content and and all that, and a ton of money is also moving into education. Ask yourself why.
Hmm.
My prediction here is that we have another lockdown in our future.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And-
It's a long haul. There'll be another pandemic for sure. This is like one of
Well,
the.
no, I think it's going to be this one, and I think it's probably going to come in a couple of months.
I
And
think
they're
they'll
already
be.
getting people geared up for it.
I think that's
I
going to
don't
be the
think
new
people are
norm.
gonna take that shit.
I don't think people are going to take it either. You're right. They're going to have a lot of blowback. But what are they going to do? They're making films like crazy here. I mean, when you drive down the street, it's very common to see like a production company filming. It is. I know that
Can
sounds
you imagine
cliche.
they do the unemployment
all the
bonus
time.
again?
But
Oh
the thing is
hell,
that
yo!
now there's so many people, so many films, so much stuff out there right now that it's like people could stay home and just watch TV. There's more to see.
Oh my!
I think it's
God,
going to happen
there's
over
no
the
way.
winter. I think that we're going to see it like around I think we're going to see it maybe December, January, February. I do. Sorry. And
That's crazy.
sucks. It might suck. It might suck less for you all because it's cold where you are, so people stay inside anyway. It's not that cold out here, and it really sucks for us because it's sunny outside and we can't
Mhm.
go anywhere. So
All right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
any other topics to?
So in the end, I mean, I know I'm not sure if it's 2-1 that you guys think it's a psyop. Very disheartened Seb's, you've really done your homework, but I'm extremely disheartened, you know, in what.
I'll send you what I wrote about it, Lisa, if you want to ever look at it in the
Okay.
details and you know,
Okay.
the sources.
All right.
I'm not ready to
But-
jump down the PSYOP route yet, but.
But-
there are
But it wasn't about. It wasn't
troubling
really about
things.
her though. It was more just things in general, as far as like the, I guess the changing of what war actually means, like changing it from boots on the ground to like these targeted airstrikes and these like special ops units and training other, you know, mercenaries and things for their own objectives, like all over what, Middle East or Africa or whatever. So it's not so much about Tulsi. It's more of like how war is changing and how the ones that you don't really hear about, the ones that are pretty silent, the ones that no one's paying attention to, they kind of get left in the dark. And I feel like that's the most dangerous kind of war, is like the one you don't hear about. So it's that's why it's weird.
I mean, if you look at the leadership in Africa, like literally within the past 5 years, so many people have been either displaced or somehow mysteriously died. It's almost like somebody's coming in and popping people off. You know,
Yeah.
the guy in Tanzania, people are saying, oh, and like the Europeans were saying, like, oh, he died of COVID when he was an anti-vaxxer and a conspiracy. No, the man had a PhD in chemistry.
Yeah.
And he
Same with
was
the president of
smart
Burundi.
man.
The president of Burundi as well. I think a couple of months before that, or several months before that.
It's ridiculous. I know. It's kind of like
He was
what the
also
hell
had
is
the
going on
same.
here?
He had the same ideas
Hey,
as Magufuli.
so on an unrelated topic, just want to ask really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys ever done any work with the Action Network?
What's that?
It's something used
What's
by organizers to like collect or like, you know, individuals' contact information, emails, stuff like that. But I think it's controlled by the Democratic Party. You know what I'm talking about, Lisa?
Yes, I know
The
what you're
Action
talking
Network.
about. Yeah.
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 You think it's controlled?
I think it's like a move on-ish kind of thing that they're trying to do. It might even be like a, you know, a side thing. And the reason why is because move on isn't as big as it used to be, because so many people have been like disillusioned with it. It used to be huge out here in California. It started in California, you know, but I think that a lot of things have broken up because, well, Move On did something I don't know about, you know, in other places, but they started something called councils. And what it was every different neighborhood could start its own council, and then the main database that was called Bob, you know, it was this huge, massive database of millions of names that people can go, and if they wanted to start their own kind of campaign or whatever, they could do it individually with their own councils. But that's the problem. It's like you give grassroots people a little bit of power, and people start actually doing stuff. And what do? They shut it down. So that's one of the issues, because people started saying, hey, we want to do something about all this stuff happening in Israel. Hey, we want to do something about, you know, this. Hey, we want to do something about that. And so it was kind of like it went beyond what could be controlled, and it got shut down.
Can't have that.
Unceremoniously, exactly, can't have that. Unceremoniously, without any kind of like forewarning.
Mm.
You know, there was a lot of weird stuff that happened in the campaign. You know what I mean? A lot of weird stuff. Remember?
You mean Tulsi?
Yeah, remember Accelerate 2020?
Yeah.
Do you know about Accelerate 2020, Sebs? No?
Tell me.
There was a group that was actually managing her campaign, and actually, okay, so look, I've worked with a lot of different phone banking systems. She's part of a national presidential campaign, so for the months leading up, honestly, they had a hard time getting anyone to fucking phone bank for Tulsi. Okay, that's fucking God's truth, okay? It was just really sad. There just wasn't that much enthusiasm.
The people who were in charge of things, though, they were complete Luddites.
Yeah,
that's how, by the way, that's how Ed and I met.
Yeah,
I put
they
it
weren't
down
doing
like,
anything.
hey, I said, why aren't we texting these people? And Ed said, word. And I said, hey, here's my email. And I put my email out there. Contact me if you want to do something. And a few people did, and Ed was the first.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And that's how we met.
'Cause we're about doing stuff. Yeah, exactly. So,
and then we started trading, and then we started like comparing notes, and we're like, he's talking about some of the problems he was having. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm having those same problems out here. I think this, you know, I think some of these things have been infiltrated. That's what I've been saying. People giving me crazy looks.
so the phone bank system, right? The thing is that it's you get the phone number and you call them, right? Now the thing is that I told people, right? The thing is that I would also phone bank for Pete Buttigieg and stuff like that because I wanted to compare the phone numbers to see if we have access to the same phone numbers. You know what I mean? I want to know who's contacting who, know how many people they have on their team, know what's going on. You know what I mean? How strong their movement is, everything. You know what I mean? And I can know, right? It's all open information. So I go there and I find out. So anyways, the thing is that later on, Tulsi lost access to this particular phone banking system, which I've even seen very small campaigns, local campaigns, using the same database without problem. Some group called Accelerate 2020 was put in charge. Who calls their fucking business with a year in it? Very dated, right? That company has disappeared, by the way. And yeah,
Very dated.
yeah. Who's gonna right?
Yeah, no, you're.
Yeah, Accelerate 2020. I mean, they were just there for that year, right? Who does that shit, right? They get a presidential campaign now. So, anyways, yeah, and the phone bank system went down just before New Hampshire. Remember that, Lisa?
Yeah.
Right, right in a presidential
That
campaign,
thing you had
the
operated
whole
to begin
month before New Hampshire, and just a couple weeks before they finally got it back up. And I remember participating in those phone bank things, and we were given a lot of directions. Did you go to those phone bank things?
Yes, in fact, not only that, but then when there was a chat, then we could kind of like talk to each other. They turned it off. They turned the chat
Fuck
off
that.
after us.
They only wanted the people to talk to to go to the events. They didn't really
They
want
didn't want
so
you
much
talking to each
other.
other?
No,
And
not
then
at
they
all.
themselves
It
wouldn't
was
show up
very
to
silent.
it.
Extremely silent.
25% of the events in Los Angeles I was a part of. 25%. I started it. I was the one who had put it together. And that's what I mean, that Ed and I were both we were both pissed about being like pushed to the side. But at the same time, then I came to the realization after getting into it with the local coordinator, like, wait a second, I am the campaign. I'm the only one that's doing anything. Like it's like, so it was just like coming to realize
But
that
then there was also people from Nevada who said a similar thing, and Florida said a similar thing. You know what I mean? And it was all across the country. And we were actually sharing notes, and actually a lot of the local leaders were being replaced by people. Someone from Hawaii would visit, and then they would become leaders. But they were Hawaiians, but not. They were like white Hawaiians, right?
they were not Hawaiian. They were Hawaiians, but
so
not
there was
Hawaiians.
a replacement.
They were from Hawaii, but not
Like
Hawaiians.
purge kind of happened amongst the leadership,
It was
and no one
weird.
talked about this. It was some real weird ass shit, Sebs. Yeah.
That is weird.
I
sure
saw
was.
it as just like, you know what, these people were groupies, and they weren't like, real political people. They weren't real grassroots people. They were just groupies, really.
There's a lot of different. They did. Okay, another thing is that Bernie left a lot of ground movement here in New York. So the thing is that after Bernie ran, there was groups that secured before Tulsi even ran, right? Like there was groups that had already endorsed Sanders. Already, they were
Right.
already promised to him.
Right.
Lots of them. Yeah. So he had a very strong ground game already, but Tulsi did not attempt to leave any ground game whatsoever
Right.
in any of the territories. That's very strange, right? Yeah.
Very
There's no
strange.
ground. So, but she made it. There's none. It's so that doesn't suggest that she would run again.
Here's I disagree. And when you think about
Or
it,
not realistically,
many
not with any
people dropped-
realistic chance of winning.
listen,
Okay, go
look
ahead.
how many people dropped out of the campaign, and in the end, she was one of the few left. She still outlasted Buttigieg. She still outlasted Kamala Harris. She still outlasted a bunch of people, and she was, down to the wire. The thing is, and
She had a lot of independent media like cheering her on as well.
yeah, she had some independent media. She couldn't get
Or not, not like
as
the
much, as
TYTs
much stuff
or
going
whatever.
on as possible. I mean, after the debates, she would always be the #1 Googled person. She just she tried to put in Google ads, and Google just hobbled her, and didn't let
I mean,
her.
she went after Kamala, but she didn't go after Joe. That's her good friend Joe.
She
you know?
actually
It's
saved
it's a
Joe
little weird.
because Kamala went
she
after
saved the
Joe,
shit out of
and
Joe.
she cut Kamala after Kamala went after Joe.
It's easy to go after Kamala. I mean, not that it's not easy to go after Joe, but it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like Kamala, like she was not like that. She wasn't from Oakland to San Francisco to wherever. Kamala has never been very popular. So, didn't her dad write like a whole article about her? Felt kind of bad for her a little bit. From her dad, like pretty much disowning like anything she's ever said.
How much protection do you think Tulsi had at her events?
I don't know.
There was one guy.
I don't go to
shorter
political
than me.
events.
He was big, but there was one guy shorter than me, and that's who was there, and that was it. I said, "What the fuck?"
Chelsea's a badass, man. She could like kick anybody's ass
Yeah,
around
okay.
her.
Yeah,
Come
okay.
on. She's a badass. You know, she doesn't need any protection. Are you kidding? She's the protection. She's really everybody around her. She's a badass. She's strong as hell. Samoan. She's like part Samoan. Are you kidding? You guys know maybe there's more Samoans out here. Samoan people are huge. Like they're
You've
not.
seen her dad,
you know,
right?
we're
You've
not
seen her
talking
dad,
about.
right? You've seen her dad. That's the Samoan. He's not that huge. That's not.
No, I know Samoans. I have said the Samoans kind of in my extended family.
Okay,
Like,
I
you
know
know, they
Samoans
play
too, yeah.
football and they're
They-
huge.
They are
They're huge, man. It's like just because he's a tiny a guy doesn't mean like they're all like that. They're not. And she's strong as hell anyway. She's like really.
She's
a
definitely in
strong-
shape.
But and I mean physically strong, and also I'm hoping that people collectively that it's annoying that people want to champion the military. We don't, if we weren't stirring shit everywhere, we wouldn't need as big a military as we have. We need to cut it by a fourth at least. We need to we need to start shutting things down. And I believe it will happen. Why? Because we're bankrupting ourselves. You can't incarcerate everybody. You can't spend all this money. You can't spend more money on people than it would if you gave them free education, free healthcare, free everything, even free housing.
But that's why they're changing their tactics to the special operations and training troops in other countries, in countries like Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, Rwanda, and training them to do the bidding of what NATO wants. So that's the problem. So it's
exactly.
Like,
Well,
then
the UN
they're scaling down. It's like, yeah, you're scaling down your boots on the ground, but you're training others, and then you're going to have the drones do the rest of the work. And so it's like it's like a farce. Like it's like there's like, oh well, we're running out of money to do this, so we're going to concentrate on doing this. And it's like that might actually be even more sinister because then you won't even know what's happening. So it's like it's like an invisible enemy, you know?
You're right. It's less accountability.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why it kind of scares me. Like I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer. It just
No,
genuinely scares me. Like,
well, this is the thing about a kind of more multipolar world, is that what we do to other people can do to us. And the thing is, at some point there's a détente. You know what I mean? At some point, you get to a point where okay, we're evenly matched, and this is a bit of a stalemate. You know, it's like, do we want some serious shit to go down? Do you honestly want to fight a war here? It's like we say, oh, we'll do this if you do this to us. Will you? Can you? Do we have the outreach? I mean, starting this year, our population is turning downward.
I just don't think. Yeah, we're just not gonna fight as hard as they are. I'm sorry.
We're not, of course. Yeah, exactly. That's the reason why
if we lose, our life gets just worse a little bit. But if they lose, they lose everything.
Money, with all these arms, they can't even secure Yemenis. The Yemenis. Why? Because they're fighting on their home ground, and the same thing with Syria. Stubborn people, and they know what's up. And now it's like, so everybody is like, you know what? We're sick of you. We're sick of this. We know what's behind you. Forget it. And they're waking, and they're waking up.
I think they're just.
Doesn't mean that
getting ready for other plans.
They're doing new tactics now. They want to stand. They basically want to secure their farmland and their resources and try to starve everybody out.
Yeah.
And it's like
And
they're not
use
going
global health crises.
Watch, it's going to be like Afghanistan. They're going to have to pull out suddenly. They're not going to be able to do this. You know, they're vaccinating everybody in Israel. A bunch of people are getting sick. They're starting to wake up and say, "Wait a second, we're all a bunch of guinea pigs." Like there's sites and everything, and it's not like, I'm not a big, it's hard to have a lot of sympathy, but at the same time, when you see like, oh my God,
like everyone said, I said I have sympathy for everybody, no matter where they are.
Exactly. But now when you're seeing it's like, oh my God, they are guinea pigs. Look at all the people who are getting sick all of a sudden. Look at all these people. It's like tons and tons of people.
Kids with heart conditions, like what the fuck is that? Like it's not normal.
Right, 20-year-olds.
I've heard that Israel had a very high level of vaccination rate, but they also have a very high. They have a surge in COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that as proof that the vaccine is actually dangerous.
Dude, that's like I just read something that Kim Iverson was talking about it, but she wasn't really going into aspects of it on Rising that she should have, because she said she read something and it was terrifying. She's right. I read it too. It was people it happened in hospital. There was a dialysis patient who had COVID and they didn't test them because their symptoms were the same as like someone with delayed like dialysis. And so they didn't test them, came in, gave everybody else in hospital COVID, including staffers, full PPE, N95 mask, face mask, full on. And not only did those staffers get it, but they spread it. 42 people. The 2 people who were unvaccinated only got mild cases. 9 people got severe cases. 7 to 8 critical. 6 died, all vaccinated in hospital.
Hey,
Tell me.
Sebs,
And this was like,
yeah.
and the 2 unvaccinated people, one was in their 50s, one was in their 70s.
Talk about Kim Iverson, right? Yeah. Sebs, you know Israel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yo, Israel, just so you know, Lisa, is actually Kim Iverson's producer. Yeah?
Mhm.
So actually, they made some videos. I used to hang out with him. He was on this talk called Big Talk, Little Talk.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
and he knows all my work with the Yang Gang and that whole mess. And right now, Kim Iverson's talking about Yang and third party, even though she knows about people like myself and Brendan Carpenter. Well, at least myself, if not Brendan Carpenter, exist.
You know what? I have to
Yeah.
tell you, I'm not a fan of Kim Iverson, but she did say this, and I know that people do like her,
They know,
especially
but they're not talking
a lot of healthy people like her. I'm not a big fan of Kim Iverson's because she says like some like ridiculous tropes and stuff like that. She just mimics them, like, and I'm just like sorry, you're not doing your homework if you're saying these types of things. But
I just don't really find her content that interesting, quite frankly. For me, it's like I'm
too.
yeah.
I
I
feel
just don't
like-
really,
feel
I mean,
it
there's
too.
some stuff that I've seen of hers, but it's not anything. And
but
then
she
does
is the
the
best
other
thing
stuff,
on
yeah,
Rising.
where it's
That's
like
not
black
saying
on
much,
Asian
but-
crime, and it's like, who are you catering to? I don't understand.
She is
Yeah,
the best
okay,
thing
yeah,
on
that's
Rising, though. That's not saying much because Rising sucks, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
she is the best thing on Rising.
Sure. I just never really watch her stuff, so for me, it's like I don't really. And the stuff that I have caught, it's like not really. I don't know. It's not stuff that I normally watch. I think she talks about what like Sweden and the way that they're handling COVID, and she's talked a little bit about the Middle East and things. And some of her coverage I like, and then a lot of the other stuff it's just kind of like, And then I saw her on Tim Pool, and I'm like, wow, like this is kind of sad. Like, it did not challenge the guy at all. The guy is a fucking cretin, Tim Pool. So it's like, if you can't see that, she's like calling him like, you're so smart, like you're super smart.
Oh, she had Tim Pool on
like,
his show?
Oh my god, she was on his show.
Oh,
She was on
really?
Tim Pool's show. Oh yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. It was lackluster, to say the least. Yeah,
Yo, Lisa, you should hang out with us on the Yellow Brick Road. It's a good time. Yeah.
I doubt that she would do that. Maybe.
She could meet Matt Hunter. Matt Hunter's crazy.
Yeah. But no, I'm not a big Kim Iverson person either. Not even necessarily because of anything she's done in particular that I didn't like. It's just more, I just don't really. It's like, what am I gonna watch?
I just
don't
don't
know.
trust the information
What am I?
anymore.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I'll read the sources myself, and I'll decipher what I think. Yeah, and then I do, and then I'll write about it if I want. And some other people's perspectives I really appreciate. Some I just watch to laugh, and others it's kind of boring. So she just kind of falls in that last category. So
No, there's particular
Yeah.
things that you said that I took serious issues to.
I watch a lot of Alison McDowell. She does some great in-depth research. If you
I don't
guys
know
want-
her. Who is she?
Allison, she does a lot of research on pretty much the Great Reset, or she doesn't even call it that. It's more just like finance, global finance, and the way that it moves around, and the restructuring of the prison system. Like I learned a lot of that from her.
Allison McGowl? What is she on? What is her
McDowell.
show?
I'll send you her stuff on the
Oh,
chat.
great.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely. But she has a blog called Wrench in the Gears, And then she also has a YouTube channel, and she's on Twitter, very active as
Let
well.
me make sure I'm on the right one, because I think I signed up for one, but I saw mine was about COVID or something. Not so much about. Maybe I'm on the wrong Allison McDowell.
Maybe.
Some lady with
She should be,
glasses.
she's like Philly852 or something on Twitter.
All right,
yeah,
putting
she
it in
does
the
have
chat.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat right now.
All right, cool. So,
There you go. So if you want to pull it up, this is
so
her.
yeah. So honestly, the whole SIAPA thing, I think that was a good discussion. You know, there's no proof either way.
Oh, certainly.
But there's definitely a lot of evidence that could be examined. There's no smoking gun, but I think it's significant.
You know, the problem with the military, and people are really into the military in general, it's like if you want to find a boogeyman, you always will. You know, there will always be. I call it boogeyman du jour. You know, because it depends on, you know, what you're looking for when you're looking for it. If you want to find a boogeyman, you always will. And
Yeah. I
that's
mean,
one of the problems. That everyone is seen as a threat.
I'm still trying to look for closure on the Tulsi topic. I feel like Tulsi's career is basically over. I mean, also if you look at like some like down ballot candidates that she was promoting, like Isaac Fink, nothing happened there.
I know, nothing happened.
Also, and
Nothing
another,
happened.
yeah, and also she had the opportunity to develop other candidates like who were wanted to run in her, like, you know, in her movement, like was that Christine Olivo, and there was that other guy Francisco, but she completely did not really pick them up in any way. The PAC could have supported them. She's not trying to really establish a legacy or a dynasty to follow. There's nothing really to bolster or to provide further support for her down the line. I don't see anything developing, really, on the grounds. I think it's done.
Oh, also, Lisa, I think, sorry, I just thought about this because you said you were in education. Alice McDowell actually came into her research through education because Philadelphia schools were getting shut down and stuff like that. So a huge chunk of her research for the first 2 years is all in like education and like the restructuring of education. So I think you would probably find that quite fascinating, actually. I would love to hear your thoughts on that after. Sorry, I just wanted to add that in there.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm a tutor as well, yeah. The kids love me. That's right.
Well, she said you're starting an online homeschool type thing, platform.
Hyperion Academics.
Yeah, it's an online educational platform
Okay.
to basically help, you know, unmotivated students do well in school.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a full curriculum.
They got a frog, or is it a turtle? It's a frog, right? Or a turtle.
A frog?
In the character, you have which was the character again?
Oh, we have a little unicorn, and we have a group of frogs that we call the Willies, because they're Willie A frog, Willie B frog, Willie C frog, and Willie D frog, and then we have a little bee, and she's like the science. Her name is Dr. B, and then we have these parrots, the parrot pals, that are for social studies.
So I'm there screaming about Lee Camp, then I talk to Lisa about some like little froggies jumping around. It's cool. Unicorns. That's good.
But the company logo is our sun rays, rays of sun. So we're pretty happy with it. We've gotten great feedback, but I think it's really important because a lot of parents they feel, you know, at a loss as to what to do with their kids. You know, like, how do I occupy them? How do I? They feel clueless as to where to even start. And this is basically giving them sort of a handout and a leg up as far as saying to them, you can do this, you can do this, you can, and when you can take control of your child's education and actually, you know, manage that well, think of all the other things that you can take control of as well. What is it that you allowed these other systems to mandate? Because I mean, I can't speak for every other state, but I can tell you with California, it was definitely a school to prison pipeline. I mean, basically, it was a setup for almost all Black students. It was ridiculous. And, so I just, I feel like this is a way that we can, have our own structures, have our own systems. They've tried to get rid of homeschooling before in California. They didn't succeed. We know that they're starting to do certain things now that that people are getting upset about, but it's now that the homeschooling movement is really growing, and particularly amongst the Black community, it's that they can only go so far. The thing is that there are lots and lots and lots of teachers and former teachers in California, and they wield a lot of political strength, not because there's a lot of teachers teaching right now, but there's a lot of former teachers. And one of the biggest pension plans in the entire planet is CalSTRS, which is the teachers' pension plan of California. And that's the real issue, because they want people to continue to be paying into that. Because you've got, just like you've got, 10,000 people a day going into Social Security, you've got more than a tenth of that, because we're more than a tenth of the population going into this particular fund. And so we've got at least
a lot of money
people a day. That's a lot of people. And we've got at least 1,000 people a day going into our company pension plans. CalPERS and CalSTRS, two of the top, the largest bond funds on this planet. So you can see that a lot of, and just to see what that pension fund is funding tells you a lot of where these things are going and why they are. And who are the people who are just like, oh, yawn, we bombed another country, yawn. It's because they've got their fingers in the pie economically, and when I say that everything kind of starts with education, like it really does.
It does.
Parents are starting to wake up. So parents don't understand how they have through this experience a way to steer this ship away, steer it away. And you've got basically people who don't care about what's happening to younger people, to those of us who still have, decades left on this planet, because they've already retired. So they don't give a fuck about us. Yeah. But that's, it's
they hear on TV. That's about it. Oh well.
Yeah. It's also, teachers, when it comes to a profession, is one of the most childless professions of all professions. So not only are they not only do they have fewer kids, many of them have no kids, and so they don't feel invested in this future. And so I'm a mom, so I feel maybe more invested than other people do. But I do think that there is a way, and I've always seen that, our schools are the starting point. They're the starting points of acculturation into these, robbing of your civil liberties and
I see where you can feel that way.
Space. And it's just acculturating kids into going through metal detectors and being wanded and being just for going to school, not even for doing anything. And they're normalizing these things to kids.
It's conditioning them pretty much.
Exactly. So they don't see it as being strange.
But they wouldn't do that at the office, would they?
Exactly.
Because adults wouldn't go through that inconvenience.
Exactly. So why is it okay if our kids are doing it? It's not okay.
Because it's not
They want to normalize it. They want to make it like, oh no, this is just normal. This is just how things always are. Like, what are you guys talking about?
And so you don't see anybody doing right. Exactly. That's what I mean when I say school to prison pipeline. It's like, we can disrupt that. And now that they see that, they've tried a couple of times, by the way, to overturn these laws that that Californians have put into place. And one of the last times that they tried, it lost resoundingly, like by 70%. They never almost get 70% for anything here, and it lost resoundingly. And now they realize they can't overturn these things. They can't do it. And now with this huge expungement of 600,000 convictions, now people are like, you know, they say that there's a recall movement going on with this DA because of that, and there's like, there's no way they'll never get rid of him now, because there's so many people who had those convictions. There's no way they're going to get rid of this dude. So as long as he keeps doing this and, like, you know, cleaning out the rot, what we really need is to prosecute the prosecutors, because these DAs have been doing a bunch of stuff, but that's another conversation. But but as I'm hoping that, you know, I've been to Hawaii too several times. I've slowly seen how the military mindset, I mean, this is basically what happened. You know, Pearl Harbor used to be like one of the wonders of the world, and then they started putting all kinds of shit there, like military crap, and just basically destroying it. You know, it's always been in the culture there, in the living there, that people always looked to, and Asians themselves always got more, they always had a higher stature in society. And the last time I went there, which was a while back, but I was disheartened to see that I felt like I saw the scales tipping, that white culture is now starting to get a little bit of a lead. And I hope that was like a miscalculation on my part. I hope, but I'm nervous about that, because if, you know, this sort of like regimented, you know, compartmentalized, you know, just, you know, mentality, you know, militaristic, you know, starts to take over there, and it definitely has a space, you know, there. But when it starts to tip the scales and become more than that, I worry for Hawaii, because it has to be more than that. I'm hoping that it will always stay that way. You know, everybody has sold the myth of Hawaii, this sort of like,
the myth.
A hula lady and stuff like that, and they don't really understand what's on the ground and what's really happening on the ground.
All the bases and all the activity and
and just the societal structures on the ground.
Oh yeah. And I mean, they make it impossible to live there too, as far as like the rent goes and living expenses and things. They want the locals to move to the mainland.
And that's exactly. The economic, you know, inequality is like, it's huge there. It's huge.
Oh yeah, the homelessness is like out of control. Like it is a big problem. Like it shouldn't be dealt with the way that, you know, Tulsi was kind of championing it, but it does need to be addressed in some way, in a very real way. It's quite sad.
And the thing is that there are things that happen on the island that people know, and no one can do anything about, like lava flows. You have a house and property, and you've got it, and it like steamrolls it. It's like bye, you know. So then what do? You've lost everything, and it's like, how are you not supposed now?
People have insurance for that now.
Being homeless, it's probably one of the best places in the world to be homeless, but it's you know, there are things that need to be done, and things in process that are keeping those things from being done. And now things are tilting, things are swinging in a particular way, and that movement is being led by Los Angeles. I love Nithya, my city council person. The only thing I don't love about her is that she was involved in the main push for these vaccine mandates. It's the only thing I don't like what she's doing, but it's a big thing.
Pretty big thing, yeah. It's like kind of
huge. It's huge. It's kind of like, you know, it's like, I love you, but you know, and the thing is that, you know, I'm horrified, because she's a mom. She's the only mom on the city council. She's got twin 5-year-olds, and I'm horrified that she would actually give them. Ugh. Yeah. I'm horrified that people are going to be doing this to their kids, their own babies, because they're being scared and being told that this is a good thing. Ugh.
Yeah. It's quite important. It's a weird time. Very weird time, for sure. Yeah.
Oh well. So
I mean,
That
yeah, people are
up.
gonna make the decisions they're gonna make. It's like, it's unfortunate. It's just, yeah.
I just want to also get a little bit more perspective coming from like knowing about Africa and stuff like that. So when Tulsi says that there's jihadists in Africa, do you think there's some kind of reason why? Maybe it's just overanalyzing, right? But do you think there's a reason why she's framing it like that?
Well, she did because she said she's been helping the special ops units fight them, and by that, what she means is like the special ops units normally do this. There's a thing called the 127 Echo program.
You think she's just saying what happened, or you think she's framing it in a way for a reason?
She's framing it in the way that they're framing it. That's the official framing of the State Department.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know when she's saying like she's fighting this establishment, like which one, where. Like I don't because
Why do you think the State Department is framing things? Do you think the State Department is framing being that way for a reason? Like, are they trying to accomplish something?
Absolutely.
Or, and
Yeah,
what are they trying to accomplish?
What they've always been doing, just in a different way, as far as training different fleets and troops through these special operations all over East Africa, the Sahel, which is like the middle part, and West, and also South now as well because of Mozambique. And the Green Berets went to Mozambique back in February or March, one of them. Right after they were designated, there was a ISIS Mozambique was designated. So, and then like shortly after that, the Pentagon was going to help the Congolese military with their biometric IDs. Like it's literally happening in like I'm watching it in real time. Like wow,
Hey, one
no
thing
news
that
about it. No one cares. Like this.
one
isn't a
thing
big
that might
deal.
be interesting to you is that
Yeah.
during the time when I had my channel, I was a large Tulsi support channel. I don't know if you know about that, but the thing is that during that time I got a lot of traffic from India, a lot. And the thing is that I think that because
can see
she's
that.
Hindu or whatever, right? Yeah, she's so with this whole like
Yeah, a lot of
Muslim commentary. I think that it could have some effect about what's going on with her role in India stuff. Do you think there's any tie there, or you think it's like separate?
Oh, for
or-
sure.
yeah.
Because she talks about Pakistan as well, right? Saying how it's riddled with the jihadists, whatever. So she talks about Pakistan, So I think that she does have a lot of Hindu supporters and stuff on the, I guess if we call it the conservative, right?
She's also made some
side or
tweets
whatever.
recently about saying something about discrimination against Hindus and Christians or something like that. That's been a repeated
Yeah,
line, right?
Yeah.
So something is going on to try to make some kind of play about.
she is. It's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
I
how is
mean,
this different than
that's
Bush?
fair.
How is
She could
this
make a
different
play,
than
but-
George W. Bush? Like, I just want someone to tell me how this is different than, like, Al-Qaeda. It's like, how is this different than, like, Dick Cheney, Bush, Grover, whatever his name is, Rove, whatever the hell his name is, like all those guys, John Bolton. How is this different? I just want someone to tell me. How is this different?
I mean, I
'Cause
think
John
she did
Bolton
it.
says the same shit.
In the first debate, didn't she
About
like
Iran?
that guy was like, yeah, she's like, it wasn't Iraq, it was Al Qaeda or
Tim
something.
Ryan.
Yeah,
Tim
yeah.
Ryan.
Didn't she get him with that line, like making the differentiation?
No, that's cute. But now she, I mean, like
Now she's
it's-
doing it. Now she's doing it. Yeah, I see
exactly.
that,
It's
yeah.
like, and that's why I think it's like, I'm like, are you a psyop, dude? Like, are you?
Yeah,
Do you know that you're
was-
you're a part of a psyop? Like,
it would
what's
really
your
be nice
problem?
if she could be honest about it. Yeah, I think that's a very real,
No, I mean, she
critique
like
thing,
in the
too.
debate
Yeah.
and everything. Yeah, she looked a lot better than what she was around.
Yeah.
But like that's relative to what she was around. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily the best thing. It's just that relative to the other complete and utter garbage that you're surrounded by. Yeah, you look great. Congratulations. Like, you want a cookie? You know what I'm saying? It's like, what the fuck does that mean? Nothing. Quite frankly, that means nothing to me. Like, it's if you're only as good as what you're relative to, then like you are not genuinely good.
I think that this is a conversation that really I'd like to see more of in the locals community. I really didn't see that much discussion about this topic, but I think that there's a very we could see like already there's a lot of widespread dissatisfaction with recent comments. It's like, yeah.
This is something that Seymour Hersh wrote about in an article in The Guardian sometime back when he wrote about the quote-unquote rat lines. And one of the reasons for toppling Gaddafi was actually to be able to use Libya as a way to funnel arms into the Middle East. And so he wrote about that. And as you know, Seymour Hersh is the person who basically wrote the story about the Abu Ghraib things, and then in Vietnam about the My Lai massacre. So I, and he's, Pulitzer Prize. I think he won the Pulitzer Prize twice. An amazing, celebrated journalist.
Was it
Didn't-
Jane Fonda also met Milay?
Can't even get published. Can't even get published in the U.S.
She was also
because the
recently promoted, right?
are so hot.
But didn't she
What
get a
she was-
recent
she was-
promotion?
Yes, she did. She did. She's like 2 stars away from being a general, or
Wow.
2 like promotions away from being a general.
So she,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, she's on that trajectory.
So
And the Civil Affairs and Psychological Operations Office also had like Strom Thurmond was a part of that. She's there. I know it's like Strom fucking Thurmond, but yeah, there's been a lot of neocons that have gone through that, and to me, it's just like I
What is
draw a
this?
line right
I-
there.
I never
Like,
really-
this is the line.
What is this Council of Foreign Relations thing? I never
See, that's the
understood
reason
that.
why. But I don't understand, Ed, how you can say her political career is over. You're just saying things that are completely like discounting that. You're like, I didn't even know that about Tulsi.
Because
That's
she,
bad.
where's the
I
ground
haven't
game
been
to
paying a lot
really
of attention
support
because
a
I've been so
national
focused
run?
on my education thing. But
Right.
No, I don't think her career's over. I think it's just starting.
Me too. Absolutely. No problem.
Where's the ground game to support the national run?
I don't think you need it anymore. I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, to be honest, I
Oh,
just don't
come
even
on, Ed. Where was
Ed, let's
Biden's
just-
ground
yeah.
game?
think
Where
exactly.
was
You really,
Biden's ground game?
you
Did
don't
you
need a
Whoa.
ground game to win.
I'm
Damn.
in California. I didn't see a damn person, and nobody would show up anyway.
Somehow he won
Yang had a
overwhelmingly.
ground game.
Somehow.
Bernie had a ground. Bernie had an amazing ground game. Bernie's ground game was unbelievable.
Biden.
The fact that Bernie
shit-
didn't
he
win,
had-
not because
he
I like
had-
him. It,
You
it's
got
like,
me.
if
You
it
got
doesn't
me.
show people that it's
My
a
mind just
sham,
exploded right
yeah.
there. You got me right there.
Like,
Holy shit.
let's be
Yeah, you
real.
got me.
Like, you don't need that.
You got
That
me.
shit.
Biden. You're right. They had like 5 people show up in a car. Yeah.
Look, my girl
That was
Nithya,
it. That was it. I see
George,
that shit
she
live.
had basically
Oh my
no
god,
money.
this shit was so sad. Oh my
My girl,
god.
the city council person I'm telling you about, right?
Hmm.
That national figures came into that race. That she went door to door early on, and they hit almost every door in her entire district. And then what happened? COVID came and shut everything down.
Mhm.
I don't know. Coincidence? I think not. And so she had to go from everything switched from being completely grassroots to now you had to have money to reach people because you had to have mailers, you had to have this, you had to have that, and it was really hard to reach everybody. The thing is that she had done the work previously, and because of
But
that,
the game has
still had that
changed.
goodwill.
A little
Exactly.
bit, yeah. It's still the same. It's still the same game, but the
She was
mechanics,
outspent
the
10
tools
to
have
1.
changed.
Outspent 10 to 1,
You know what? And if I could still be a little bit,
and still won.
I still don't.
I'd vote
I'm
better
still
in
not
the
ready
history
to
of
call
what-
her a full psyop. But the thing is, when you look at the things she's been fighting recently, like Olympians, like sexual allegations, those are serious charges. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's
that's.
like
But she's choosing to help people that are, already have a strong platform. I'm not saying that people don't deserve help. They definitely deserve help. All the support in the world to them. But there's other topics that she could be talking about, or building the ground game. Now, one of the things that I had done was I protested against. I said that the whole system's corrupt about the way they run those debates, and we should really challenge those things. But you don't see her really. She could activate her base to try to fight those things, but she's not doing that.
maybe that's not her goal.
Also, I feel like
That's-
she kind
That's
of like
more evidence on
she
your
hasn't
behalf.
been weighing in with Assange. I mean, she was during her campaign and she was early on, but she's not weighing in with Assange or anything at all. And by the way, and this is also something that went under the radar. When Trump left, he pardoned the people who actually committed those crimes. He pardoned the people.
The Blackwater.
Yes, he no,
Mhm.
not no. The for the double tap guys, that what Chelsea Manning and Assange are in jail for. The people who actually did those murders, they the collateral the what was it
Collateral murder.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Trump pardoned them, but he didn't pardon Assange.
He was never
Or
going to.
does he
Why
really?
would he? Yeah. He would never do that. That's silly. That's
Right.
that would go against everything.
Then they're gonna
Trump is
release.
not. Yeah, he was.
About it.
Then they're
And
gonna
that,
release the Epstein
and that
tape.
other Republicans. I heard that
Or the
he was
Russian
thinking
sex tape.
about it, and that other
I
the
doubt it.
McConnell told him, "There's no way you're going to survive impeachment if you pardon Assange."
Yeah, I don't believe that shit. It's like, let's be real. And also, I mean, why is it only about Assange? Like, there's a lot of political prisoners as well. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that what he did wasn't important or that like that work isn't important or whatever, but it's like there's all political prisoners, all prisoners in general, period. Like it shouldn't. I mean, there's like Mumia, you know,
Right.
and he's been in jail since the 70s.
Right.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of people who but it's like for some reason it's just become about Assange, and there's nothing wrong with Assange, but like there's a lot of other prisoners worldwide, globally. You know, it's like it almost when you put like just that face in the movement, and then now it's like it's like, oh well, she said free Assange, and it becomes this thing where it's like you're legitimate because you said free this particular person, so it just gets used as a tool. It turns into a tool. And it's not to say that he shouldn't be free or that he should be in prison. That's obviously not what I think. I don't think anybody should be in prison. The way that the prison system currently works should be completely dismantled, and I stand by that. However, it's just the making it all about him as far as that movement. It should be like get all the political prisoners out, all the prisoners, period. So it's just because now it's just getting used as a tool. Because Sarah Palin was saying, yeah, I believe, I said this before and I was wrong. Like free Assange, like Sarah Palin. Are you kidding me? It's like, and I saw people praising her, like, oh look, Sarah Palin gets it. It's like, no, dumbass, just fucking playing the game. Like, don't, it's like these people are savvy. Like, they're still stupid, but they're savvy with their propaganda. So.
That's one of the reasons though that I feel like I've been someone who's fought for causes and been left behind, and I know these people are, until they're free, until they get justice, I feel like they're still left behind. Them. I know my time isn't coming.
If Assange gets extradited, and he is going to put that will be very chilling for any kind of whistleblower here. That will be very chilling.
I think it's already pretty bad. Like I think that
it is already bad. What they're doing to him, no, it is chilling. It is chilling now, but what we need is a culture of whistleblowing, not a
certainly.
Culture.
Maybe actually
he was a publisher. He wasn't even a whistleblower. So
from Facebook data, the government might be able to find out how much of the populace would be willing to accept that end. They might be able to develop a profile.
I mean, there's also a lot of other strange things. What was it? I think Alan Dershowitz was part of Assange's legal team at one point. Yeah, it's like, and then Netanyahu was like praising WikiLeaks because they were exposing like what the evils, what the Arab nations are doing and shit. And I'm like, and I'm not saying Assange is endorsing that, but it's just interesting that nothing about Israel was really revealed. That's interesting. I just find that people in the Assange community like to talk about these things.
They have a lot. They have that whole Vault 7. They're just waiting to they're just waiting to see what's going to happen before they have a lot more information. That's the reason why this guy's not out. They have a lot of information and they know a little bit of it, but they don't know all of it. They have
I don't know what they have, what they don't have. I just think that there are certain things that are interesting as far as just like, I mean, the Alan Dershowitz thing alone is like,
I know he's wild. He should be like, that's
but like, why would that even be?
It's him reconstituting all of these vile figures. That's the thing about Trump, him reconstituting all these vile figures.
Alan Dershowitz was a part of the Assange legal team.
No, I know that. Yeah. No, I know that. But he's also like people are saying, well, it's about principle to him. It's not about principle. It's about whatever he wants to.
He's getting paid for it.
He was
Epstein's guy.
Part of that whole Epstein thing. Yeah. He took part in that whole Epstein thing too. Now that the guy's dead, it's yawn. Okay, move on to something else.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Everybody wanted him dead. Why? Again, knew too much, and they don't know.
I just think there's a lot of fishy. There's like, and then there was that legal team that he had with like George Clooney's wife. I think forgot her name.
Oh, Amal Clooney was part of was part of Julian Assange's legal team.
Yeah. Or some company that she's associated with. I'll have to find the article. I'll drop it down for you. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that don't really get spoken about. And so it's very confusing to me because I like to speak in facts, and I'm not saying like I don't care about people's feelings. Absolutely do. I'm a very emotional person, very sensitive person. But it's more I feel like people get swept up in like the rhetoric or like whatever the quote the people's legacy or whatever, and a lot of details, very pertinent details, get left behind, and then you don't really get the full picture. You just get like the idealized whatever people want it to be. My mind doesn't work that way. Even if it's something that's going to challenge what I thought initially, I'm still going to dig further.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. You know, here's the thing is that what they've basically done is ended WikiLeaks. And so it's kind of like, well, I know that he has, I mean, supposedly, you know, John McAfee had a bunch of information that he was going to like let out and say a bunch of stuff. Who knows if that's really going to happen? But, you know, supposedly they have the same thing for, Julian Assange. However, I'm not, you know, the WikiLeaks people are pretty savvy. They've got a lot of extremely smart people, you know, doing that. And I don't know how much you know about how it was really Assange that saved, in WikiLeaks, that saved, you know, Edward Snowden's ass. Like they're the ones that
I remember
basically
he went to Hong Kong or to help him out and everything.
And that Sarah Ferguson, what's her name? Sarah Harrison, Assange's right-hand person. You know, she basically stayed with him. She was there with him when he was in that holding pattern, you know, in between airports and everything, like in between like customs to be able to go to Russia. Like they're the ones that completely set that whole thing up for him. So the only reason why his ass isn't rotting in the cell. I mean, Daniel Ellsberg said right in front of him when they were both on a podcast together, he said, Edward Snowden will never be able to come back to the U.S.
Yeah.
He just said it.
And I mean, and it's cool, like these names, right? These like big whistleblower names. You hear a lot about. They kind of monopolize the media sphere, but there's also a lot of people in the peripheral. You know what I'm saying? That are doing things little by little, maybe not really getting recognition for it, maybe not really getting talked about, whatever. So I just feel like when we're talking about these things, as far as it be whistleblowers or publishers or journalists, whatever, it can't be about personalities. It can't be about like specific, you know, like this guy's done good work and this and that. It's like, and that's all fine. And I'm not saying that shouldn't be acknowledged, but it's like, I feel like these people tend to monopolize the airtime or just in the sphere, whether it be the alternative, or the mainstream or what have you. And I feel like that's not really where the story is. Like it's interesting. I appreciate their input, but there's something else there that lies beneath all that. So it's just, I feel like we're hearing a lot of different narratives, but like it may not exactly be the narrative that like maybe we should be concentrating on.
I agree, but there are people who are kind of like flashpoints, because there's a lot of times where things happen to a lot of different people, and until it happens to some character or some person, that really brings it into the public discourse. And that is, you know, with Assange, I mean, this is a problem. I mean, you've got people like Jeffrey Wright and a bunch of other people, John Kiriakou, hardly anybody's heard of these people. And they were, they whistleblew and they got put in jail. They got put in prison, but these issues, have really, I mean,
he became a symbol.
Like, no matter where you are in the world, no matter where you are in the world, we will get you, we will find you, and we will extradite your ass. And just like, if you write something about our government, what's going on here? I mean, this is like, I have a friend who's Egyptian, a very dear friend. And he says to me, the ability to speak your mind is a very palpable right here. He says he feels like you can't do that in many other places in the world still, and you couldn't do that. He had an aunt who was a communist, and she wrote a book and was thrown in jail. So he has like family members who were thrown in jail, and like they finally left and came to America to escape, Nasser's regime. Mm-hmm. But one of the reasons why his family came over is because his parents didn't want him and his brother to for to be conscripted into the military and to do
Absolutely.
mandatory military service. So that's
We have that in Eritrea too, so I can sympathize with that very deeply.
But-
I get that.
yeah, but I think that if this happens, and this has happened to other people, people will now see that's going to be that it is going to basically point the finger at every single journalist, and it will probably not be the big people. Why? Because they're the water carriers for all this
Mhm.
bullshit. It'll be alternative people who are really pointing out what the stuff that's going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on which alternative people, right? Because there's a lot of alternative people that like think that they may be pointing out some real stuff that's going on, but when you dig a little bit deeper, it's like, oh no, you're barely grazing the surface.
Right.
Um,
No, right. No, I agree. I agree.
I just think that we should all we all have to even question ourselves sometimes, right? It's like, well, wait, why am I going with this? Like, why am I getting triggered? If someone is saying this or that, and kind of like really taking a very honest look at some of this maybe the preconceptions that we have, like even if it does kind of challenge us to the core, because I think that like we have to be honest. Like there is no other option. There's just no other option. You have to be honest. Not you, but particularly.
No. One of the things that there's this one economist that I follow, and one of her things is that what we have is corruption from sea to shining sea, and what we have is the general populace getting some sort of benefit, even if it's crumbs, from these heinous acts. And I think that's the thing. What are the paradigms that we can create that will unplug us from these extractive and basically, heinous
Domineering,
systems, right? And
systems of domination.
Exactly. Are they there? And the thing is, yes, they are. We can create these things, and we are in this unique little, pocket, the zeitgeist of being able not to do this without having major systems. I mean,
because people have sold out their own sufficiency. So because
people can start a website on their own. I mean, the WikiLeaks team, I don't think it was very big. You can have these huge systems just dominated.
I mean, the first person to ever write about the first person to
Craigslist has never been more than 50 people.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying, but the first person to ever write about the WikiLeaks website was actually what's his name? The guy who did the cognitive infiltration, Cass Sunstein. He wrote an op-ed about it in a 2007 Washington Post article.
Wait, Seb. So wait a second. What if you started like making, about what is it called? That blog software that you can use for your website. You should have your own website instead of doing Substack.
I have a Medium, I think. That's what I have.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Medium. Wait, well, tell me about that. What is it exactly? Tell me.
You can have your own. You can have your own website. What are those? What's that common one that people use like as a blog software and use that to control the website?
Blogspot is probably what you're talking about, right?
There's another one. Do you know what I'm talking about, Lisa? It's used for content management. For websites.
That you can monetize.
Maybe it's too old. Maybe it's too old. Maybe people stop using that shit. My bad. I'm old school.
No, it's all good. No, but I was just saying, like, one of the, I think it was
WordPress. WordPress.
It was,
WordPress.
Oh, WordPress. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was Cass Sunstein who wrote about who wrote about WikiLeaks first on that op-ed, like back in 2007. Which I just thought was interesting. Like, so like why would he mention that? It's just very strange to me. There's just a lot of questions that don't really get answered or asked in the community, and it's not even coming from like a liberal, point of view or whatever, just like asking questions, and it's like, oh, you just want Assange to be in jail forever. You don't want him to be free. You're evil. It's like
people like Lisa are so good in this conversation because of her perspective of having been an activist for so long, and that's I think she would be. That's why I think she would be so good in the Yellow Brick Road, like those types of conversations.
No, I like Lisa. Yeah. She's cool. Yeah, you can join Gnomes for Truth as well.
I think that people get a certain amount. I mean, like, you're right. They start out and they start doing things, and then once people kind of hit a particular, and people have egos, and people have different, motivations for things. But but the wake up call that basically a two punch hit, like the whole WikiLeaks thing, and the collateral murder thing, the Reuters journalists getting murdered, and then and the people before them, and all of the the Red Crescent workers, and then basically Snowden saying you're being watched on every level, and it's way worse than you think. I think that really gave people it really woke a lot of people up, and now nobody sees it as a conspiracy theory. Everybody sees it. I mean, think of how much they tried to really. I mean, Snowden knew ahead of time, and so did Julian Assange, that they would try to basically make it as if people were crazy, and they did it in a way that they couldn't do that. That they couldn't diminish what they were saying. And now, what we've got are these sort of errant people like doing all of this stuff, and they basically, if they want to start more bullshit, they can't have that. And now they're doing it via this sort of all this, these fake health mandates.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that if we want to circumvent these things, what we can do, and what is unusual, from the past, is that you don't have to have a lot of money to get things out to people. You don't have to have, all you have to do is have a site. Now, the systems to getting to that site are being disruptive. Like if you do a Google search and you can't find you, then that's a problem. But people are coming up with different browsers and different search engines and different stuff, and those different people being able to kind of unplug and have their own systems are really important to be able to, I mean, even if I don't necessarily agree with them, like I'm not a religious person, but there's a site called Gab, and it's basically kind of an alternative kind of like Facebookish kind of site. And it's extremely religious, it's very Christian, but the guy who I think is Andrew Torba is his name. He just wrote basically an email out to everyone, basically saying this win in Virginia is not a win. And he basically was saying this guy is, the guy who won is the swamp creature of the swamp creatures. And he is like, he ran the Carlisle group, he did this, he did that. Now, this is a very interesting thing coming from someone who is supposedly on the right. These are people truly waking up. And why? How can this guy say this? Why can this guy say this? Because he unplugged. He created his own massive community. And
seems like a wonderful opportunity. It seems like
and so the thing is
ready to happen.
That's what we need to do. But we can't just have one. We have to have multiples of these things. And that's actually what we can do to create these systems that obviate the need for the other. AOL is still around. Back in the day, when AOL started, people thought it would be the biggest company in the world. What happened?
They could have been.
You couldn't convince any. Microsoft said the same thing about Microsoft. It's always going to be, everyone's going to use Internet Explorer. Everyone's going to do this and that. And just like, you can create systems, to think that Facebook is only what? 10, it's not even 15 years old. So you can create systems that completely upend the things that are there. And the thing is, people are saying, well, Facebook couldn't do that unless they were, plugged in, and they had to do that. Yeah, but now it's undermining them, and look at it now. So, and now there are other things to replace it. We can unplug, but the thing is that I agree with you 1,000%, Sebs. You have to really look at what you're doing, what you're supporting, what you're putting your money and your time into, and saying that, is this supporting me? Is this supporting the things that I support? You don't know that much about me, but I have a big background in foreclosure defense and in housing, and I used to be an auditor for for attorneys for mortgage contracts. And I've been sounding the alarm for like all this stuff about get out of the big banks. You cannot. These people are against you. One of the first
credit
things you
union,
do
like
is
something.
absolutely get into a credit union. And when this public bank starts
I agree with that.
here, totally get into public banking and try to start a public bank in your area. And you know that gets basically work through with basically the post office. And we can do this. And in every community, and people can start unplugging. You can defund the people who are fucking with you, and that is getting rid of these banks that have absolutely no. If you even knew what was happening in housing, if you even knew what is going to happen, we have another massive crash in our future. And
another bubble.
What we have right now is basically we are like February 2006 right now.
That's
So,
scary.
Yeah, it's scary, and it's going to be even bigger because it's bigger again this time. It got blew up. What are we? We're like 30 trillion in debt now. It's like it's going to be massive.
Every 10 years.
2023 is going to be a very difficult year. There's going to be a lot of money pumping after that, and then after about 2028. It's going to be like
it's a controlled demolition. That's what it seems like.
Yeah. And that's the reason why
the global.
that's why this is what we can do to set up these alternative systems. So when the other stuff comes crumbling down, we're not saying like we're not picking amongst the rubble, saying what can we do? What can we do? We can already have those systems and do an easy lateral slide to these other things, and just keep going. And still having jobs and still educating our kids and still having these systems that are important to us. But we have other systems that work for us instead of against us. We're not funding our own demise.
Yeah.
We need to defund the military systems, in our country. We need to it should be at least a quarter of what it currently is.
And the biotech research. Sorry, but that stuff is just crap. And there's a lot of money going into that silently, whether it be through the military or redirecting things and whatever. It's actually quite scary. These people are like literally building a global biosecurity apparatus, and it's really, really frightening. Like I don't know. It's scaring me at this point. It's like these.
Well, I hope when this blows up, people will see that. People will see it for what it really is, because I'm horrified to even say this, but we're gonna start seeing kids dying, and I'm just like, I want to devolve into a puddle of tears, when I even think about it. All I can do is try to create an alternative system to get as many people out as possible. I feel like I'm creating a lifeboat, and because I don't know what else to do. It's so massive, and so many people
you can
are
only do
so
your part.
deluded.
You can
So
only
many
do
people
what
are
you can
so
do.
deluded. As sick as people are getting, it's like it's so many people now. Like the ERs are now filled with people with vaccine reactions, and the actions are happening weeks afterward, where people have this all of a sudden, tachycardia. That's what it's called, right? When you have these like fibrillations, right? That's what it's called. Or the myocarditis among teenagers. How is it that teenagers?
They shouldn't. Doesn't make any sense.
I think one of the things that's going to be really
Are having heart problems. How do we have this? And this is going to start happening to babies.
One of the things I think is going to play a role as in terms of how this goes down is you should watch what happens in Asian countries, because they have more authoritarian roles of government. And the thing is that what happens over there, right? The people over here will be wanting to follow those same procedures, or they'll be wanting the benefits.
Well, the thing,
of the control.
the people who are setting up those rules, though. Sorry to cut you off, Ed. I just mean the people who are actually setting up those surveillance mechanisms in Asia, and particularly in like China and South Korea and things, are they're Israeli companies, like software companies. They're UK, they're the US, European. So even what's the Blackwater guy, Betsy DeVos's brother, Eric Prince, his company, like Frontier, they're the ones that set up in the entire area of what is it called? Where the it's right in the middle of China. Forgot what that area is called. Xinjiang. They are the ones who are actually building and doing the apps and everything.
I mean,
for
it
the
would make sense that it was about
system.
money the
Yeah.
whole time. I mean, it totally
Exactly.
makes
So
sense.
it's like, it's not even, but people call it like a Chinese thing or an Asian thing or whatever. It's like, no. Like, this is like global capital, you know, and it's being done to people. So we have to have solidarity with those people too, you know, and not in like a, oh yeah, U.S. needs to go there and fix things in China. No, it's not in that way, but just in like a
Global citizens.
These things are real. You know what I'm saying? And you can't just reject it as like, you know, liberal or whatever. You know, whatever it is, it's like a paranoia. It's like, no. These things are real, and they're being done by the very people that like these quote unquote anti-imperialists are against, right? Like these private military contracting companies and things. So I think that that's just an important thing to mention when even talking about Asia, because like a lot of that surveillance, yeah, it might be happening there, but like who's providing the hardware? You know what I'm saying? And who's facilitating this? It's like it's the same people that are also running the wars and you know, like anti-terrorist shit. In the Middle East and Africa and South America. So it's just, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. This was I think it's been definitely a long episode right here. But do you guys have anything else you want to add to the topic before we close out?
No, we definitely have to do this again. I enjoy talking to both of you.
All right.
I don't know if I can say that Tulsi is a psyop. I can say that she is someone who, you know, obviously can be, I use the term loyal, but obviously can be, you know, there are many people involved with movements who are kind of true believers, and then they have something that happens that's a wake-up call. And I'm hoping that sooner rather than later, Tulsi has that wake-up call. But then she would have to do something that she doesn't seem willing to do, especially if she's now being promoted within the ranks. And that is, she needs to be able to kind of leave, like she did the DNC. She'd have to leave the military in order to whistleblow on them. And I don't think I see her there yet.
No, I think that's
promoted.
I'll just split up my little conspiracy theory now. Actually, I think that one of the things is that her ties to the army, I think that faction may be providing her some cover for her to be able to criticize the National Intelligence Agency, whereas the other candidates don't. So, but you know, I think that her losing, right, actually puts her in a weak position, and probably in the funding they probably got hammered, or like, you know, or behind the scenes and stuff, or they're not happy about her doing that. I'm sure, you know, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be pushback on that behind. So, I think that's why she was comfortable making those moves, because she was in the army and a high-ranking army person, right? It's hard to squash out someone who's high-ranking army personnel. You know what I mean? The army would lose a lot of face if that should happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, or I mean, like, why would she even be allowed to say that? Honestly, unless there was some other.
I think there could have been some power struggle going on. Maybe there was a power struggle, and she lost.
I think she's getting ready to. I think she's getting ready to do something.
She lost and she's out, dude. She's being promoted within one of the biggest, like, you know, organizations within the government. More money goes to this bullshit than anything else in our country. So, and she's being promoted within that apparatus. Man, she's not going anywhere as long as she's with that. So,
but she's been so quiet recently, and then people will be like, "You had a whole year to get your
podcast
out. Where was your podcast at?
Nobody cares about the podcast. She can start that at any time. Come on.
Where is it at?
Like, and by the way, did you hear about Locals? Locals got bought by Rumble, and do you know who Rumble's being funded by?
Peter Thiel.
Yes.
Who is Peter Thiel?
Palantir.
He helped to start PayPal.
I'm on Rumble. Rumble monetizes me now.
Palantir is like part of like the CIA kind of, you know.
It is.
You know,
they handle all the surveillance for ICE and shit.
So basically, all the people who started all these alternative things, the biggest alternative things, is now being funded by the one guy who's the follower. So it's obvious that they can't let people, you know, they can't let people, you know, get too far out of the way without, you know, having having some sort of, thumb in their pies, they can't let them sing. So obviously Rumble has some algorithms that people are being watched or surveilled or whatever. They're not censoring
on
anybody.
Rumbles, their like terms of service, I think it was like number 16 was you can't disparage any Rumble employees or anyone who's like sponsored by Rumble.
Oh my God!
Yeah, you can't talk
Are you
shit about this.
kidding?
I'm not even making. I wish I was making that up. It's literally in their terms of service. I'm like, this is a joke. So I can't talk about Glenn Greenwald if I wanted to, or like Tulsi, or you know what I'm saying? It's like I can't talk about these people that technically are,
I'm uploading this video to Rumble. I don't care.
It's funny.
What happens.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, wow, this is interesting. So it's like, this is your free speech platform.
I know,
but I can't talk shit.
And the bummer is that BitChute is like so crappy in comparison.
Uploading
like,
stuff is kind of hard, right?
Yeah, it's really, BitChute is not as good. But that's what I mean. Like when you have something like Gab works. There's not as much back and forth, but I think that platform exists is very important, and we need more like that. But we can't have, stuff being, co-opted, because obviously it is. And the fact that they bought Locals, started by, what is that Jordan Peterson guy and Dave Rubin, it's kind of like.
Do you know any independent server farms? Because the thing is that most stuff is now on like Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud.
Right. Just like, Rockfin's on Amazon Web Services too.
Everybody is. Most of Google is on AWS.
Well, Odyssey isn't though.
Oh, Odyssey isn't. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I like Odyssey.
They're decentralized more.
So
I was talking to Shadowband and Jack about this because they were saying how that's why they go after Odyssey more than they do like Rockfin or whatever. They're using decentralized, like actually decentralized.
Okay.
I would like to use a different web hosting platform. One that
Odyssey.
The
people on Odyssey are pretty good. I've seen them reach out to like people like Dr. Mobeen, who he's this Pakistani physician who's here in the U.S. who talks about different protocols for treating COVID, and he talks to doctors all over the world. He's very, very popular.
I've always been saying Odyssey is
the Odyssey people, and then he didn't get deplatformed, but YouTube took a few of his videos down, and Odyssey reached out to him and said, "We will migrate all of your videos to Odyssey."
Aww,
now he promised like that. They went to him and migrated all of his stuff, and now he has a big following on Odyssey, which is great. So great, Odyssey is something too. I was kind of pro. Like I was like, Rumble's great. It's got a lot of stuff on it. And then it's like I see Reuters, I see Glenn Greenwald, and then I saw that Rumble bought Locals, and I'm like, wait a second, how did Rumble get the money to buy Locals? And then
funded by Peter Thiel.
and then when I looked it up, like, oh, Peter Thiel, oh my God. So yeah,
I was laughing. I'm like, wow.
Even when you think you're winning, you're still losing.
I know, right? Because everyone was talking about, like, look, Glenn Greenwald and Tulsi are moving to this platform, and like the libs are gonna cry about it. Look, the libs are mad. It's like, okay, Rumble sounds like what?
Oh, you gotta meet this guy named Dubster
Bro,
Bryant.
Like what kind of own?
But the interesting thing is when you watch the same video, like when Glenn Greenwald has a video on YouTube, he has like 27,000 views. When you see that same video on Rumble, he has like 270,000. He has at least 10 times more views. And so things are being throttled on YouTube.
Oh, for sure. I agree.
But
it's just interesting that like how things work. I mean, like YouTube, Google, all that. Like it's terrible. So it's not saying that like people shouldn't use it.
It's really
I think that people can use whatever they want, but like let's just be honest about the tools that we're using as well. That's all. It's not to say like, oh, don't use it. Yeah, it's just more.
I mean, Peter Thiel has done some interesting things, though. I feel that I don't trust him, especially because of that company he has. Yeah. But he also bankrolled Ron Paul, and you can't really get. I mean, he's unbuyable. Like he believes like he's really not a person that you can pay off, not at all. And he was
different ways to buy people.
Almost single-handedly bankrolling Ron Paul's campaign.
I'm sure he had a reason for that, though. Like, I'm sure that's because he wants. That's giving the legitimacy. Yeah, it's like, oh look, I bankrolled Ron Paul. I'm all about civil liberties. Oh, but number 16 on the terms of service says you can't disparage anyone on Rumble, by the way.
Yeah.
Like it's like wow, okay.
Right. I know.
So much for civil. It's just the hypocrisy is just like it is rampant and it's repugnant.
Lisa, you can see who I've gotten myself involved with. These people are
Right.
good. These people have no mercy. They're ruthless. Just my
They
kind of
are.
people. So,
Sebs, you're awesome.
yeah, you're
You
gonna
are
like
awesome.
them. Yeah, you're gonna like them. Yeah. Gnomes for truth. Yeah, do it.
I
It's on
can't
Discord.
believe that people who are like more, like more.
You know who I was gonna end up with?
Bigger than me.
Yeah.
Because usually I'm like the crazy person. Like, they did this, they did that. How can you do this? Like, I get so mad when I find people like, oh, I'm gonna open a bank account at Chase. Like, what the fuck are you
Yeah.
doing that for? It's like, do you know how many people they put out on the street? Like,
Seriously. Yeah.
if people only knew, it's more vile than even what people know, and they think they know a lot.
Yeah. It's probably more vile than we even know. You know, like I'm
And
sure.
the thing is that it's going to happen again. So that's why people need to we need to get these systems in order. I mean, part of my thing, and maybe it's because I'm being hopeful, but
That's a good
I
thing.
believe part of these vax mandates that they're doing for the cops is to be able to get rid of the cops, because in the entrenched, I think it's like I think it's kind of the shock doctrine in reverse, because these political unions and these like for instance the police unions, they're so strong here in California that it's like we can't get rid of people, and I think that they're using the vax unions, the vax mandates, to kind of fire them and then
Absolutely.
never jobs again.
They're culling. I mean, they're changing anyway. The whole defund the police movement, it's not because they suddenly like realized that, you know, that cops were bad or whatever, even though that's kind of like, that's a whole other conversation, but it's like the defund the police movement had nothing to do with actually changing policing or surveillance or anything. It's just more like, okay, we're going to defund the police and then
because they
fund
don't have the
this
money
thing over here.
and they know that it's too much. The thing is that they can't get rid of it through other avenues because the police unions are too strong. But Newsom, I don't know if you guys know what this is what's happening in California, but Newsom has made it mandated that all students like 5 and up, once it gets approved by the FDA, are going to have the COVID vaccine before they can go to any school in the state of California. But the asshole went to bat for the corrections officers, for the prison guards, against having to be vaxxed. So prison guards don't have to be vaxxed, but everybody else does.
That's just beyond
God, hypocrisy. Beyond hypocrisy. It's like, why?
Pelosi's
What
nephew.
justification do you have for that?
Pelosi's nephew. Like, that's just...
Exactly, Pelosi's nephew.
Coming from working with the homeless community, coming from working in emergency rooms. Yo, look, I actually, if you look at my wrist right here, you can see it's this color right around here. That's because when I went to protest Lee Camp, they called the cops on my ass. I asked the cops right there. First of all, I've dealt with cops. You know, I've actually, you know, done some advocacy work on self-defense, things like that, right? So the cops show up and they said, "I want you to go over there," and I said, "If you could want me to go over there, that's fine. But I know that I don't have to go over there. You know what I mean? You could want whatever you want. If it's not a legal, you know, legal request, whatever. I legally have my right to be here, so I'm just gonna be here." Then they said, "You're not under arrest." I don't know if the organizer said they didn't want me arrested. They said that before when I was protesting. Then the cops, so what they did was they took me to an ambulance, right? But the thing is that once they take you to an ambulance, it's actually a lot scarier, right? Because they take away your agency, your ability to do things. So when I was in the ambulance, right, they said, are you going to, if you come back, we're going to arrest you. I said, fine, if I come back, you could arrest me, but I'm just going to leave. Just let me leave. No problems. This should just be over, okay? I see you guys are serious. I'll just get out of here. I don't want to get arrested. Just screw it. Let's go. You know what I mean? They're like, nah, you just said you want to get arrested. I said, what? I said, you crazy. Then they took me away, right? Yeah? So in the ambulance, I'm like, first of all, right? I was in med school not too long ago. I'm clearly oriented to person, place, and time, right? I told you what my name is. I told you, right? Yeah? Like you asked me where I am. I told you where I am. You know what I mean? I gave you all the right answers. So what's your professional basis for determining this? I'm going to come after you. And they let me go immediately. You know what I mean? So this new thing of changing it to mental health workers when people don't know about the mental health system and how it's used is chilling, and people are giving up their own agency. People don't know about things and making decisions on things they have no idea about.
Yep. I 100% agree with that, Ed. Like, because they don't realize that these social workers, quote unquote, like that they are going to be replacing it with, like they're going to work for the state as well, and they have certain protocol, and they have to follow certain, you know, just certain lines, and it might actually, like you were saying, really take away more of your agency than you think.
Here's one automatic one. I'll tell you that maybe a lot of y'all know about. The thing is that if you're a child and you run away from home, and the thing is that, like, no matter how serious the crime is, right, they're automatic being, because before they want to try to put you at the state system, because they don't want to spend the money on it partly, and because they know that the outcomes are bad, right, it doesn't always work out, they'll just automatically try to put you back into the home, no matter how bad it is. That's automatic. There's a lot of messed up policies.
Interesting? You know what's interesting, actually, you're in California, Lisa. I was actually listening to a talk, it was with Alison McDowell, and she was talking about how they were managing, like, the displaced kids in Santa Clara County and San Jose, and they were, like, it was done through Chan Zuckerberg's company, but they were calling them, like, data communities, or I forgot exactly the name. I can send it to you later, but essentially they were managing these, like, displaced kids, like these who's on welfare, who's, you know, orphans, stuff like that, like just anyone who in that type of community, right, that might not have anyone really advocating for them. And a lot of the information that they were, like, gathering, all this data on these kids, it was going to the fusion centers in California.
What are the fusion centers do?
Like, the fusion centers are basically like military, like Department of Defense, data aggregating centers. They're all over, like, different cities in, like, Chicago, New York, stuff like that. And I'm like, why would they need that information?
You know why? When they look for snipers, when you go to sniper school, they specifically select students that do not have family, or they have kids and stuff. They don't want that, because they're going to drop you behind enemy lines, and they want you doing stuff, and it's better if you're. So that could be a definite reason. They would probably be of higher interest in maybe selectively recruited for certain things.
Yeah. No, I'm sure there's, like, a lot of different reasons for it. It's just I can't imagine that they're good, you know. But they kind of try to color it as, like, oh no, we just want to gather this information.
They're more disposable.
So they're like, we want to see what the outcomes are for these other programs we're instituting. That way we know what works and what doesn't, and blah 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 blah. So they kind of color it as that, like, with these little pilot programs. But then, like, they don't tell you that this information is, like, directly feeding this into these fusion centers.
Do you want to have a draft, or do you want to get rid of some disposable people first?
Yeah, it's like, whoa, dude, that's sinister.
Right, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Oh, they're called data zones. That's what they're called, data zones.
This is what I mean about having these schools be these pipelines. You know, it's like, and this is what I mean about they do this stuff in education. They do it to kids first because they don't have advocates. And this is what I mean. Like, it's like there's so much to say because there's so much that goes on within these systems, and people don't find out about it. And when the parents say something about it, when it happens to their kid, all they get is gaslit. They just, you know, gaslighting happens to. And who does it happen to mostly? Black families, Black parents. And if you're a single mom, especially, I know it's happened to me, and it's happened to me.
The involvement of the military-industrial complex with the educational system has been hugely problematic.
Oh yeah, they've merged. Yeah. It's kind of scary.
So this is the reason why it's like when you have education and your kids can kind of be like follow their own interests, or you can do things and have children, like you realize there's a lot of programming that you're not getting. I don't want to sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist. I'm not a religious person. I'm very secular, but I you know, there is the programming is more insidious than that, because like I said, it's not necessarily in, you know, overtly said, but it's by habit. So when you walk into school and you have to line up single file and you go through all these different cages, and then you get randomly wanded
or randomly having your backpacks checked, or randomly. Do you understand what I'm saying? That there's an acculturation of having your civil liberties violated, and and people now, you know, they're starting to see it as normal. It's not normal. This is not what should be happening. You know, I mean, where else do you line up single file through cages and are constantly getting, you know, having, you know, your person searched and your person, where else does that happen? But in jail, but in prison, you know? So this is.
You're right.
Adults wouldn't go through it. The adults wouldn't tolerate it.
Exactly. Adults wouldn't tolerate it, but look at what they are tolerating. Look at what they're tolerating now. If you
scare
give
them
people
enough.
the right context, right? If you give people the right context, and now this has been happening. And now this has been happening. Look, this was happening when I was. I think I told this story once before to you, but I was teaching. This was, you know, many years ago, like 25 years ago, and they had given me the sort of side room because I had this sort of overflow class from another class, and one of the staffers comes in with a wand in her hand and several kids, and I said, she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought this room was empty." And I said, "No, I'm just grading papers, but you know, you can come in, it's okay." And so she comes in and she starts wanding. The kids are in this, like, the pose, you know, like the little, like the little crucifixion pose, I call it, and it's like they're getting wanded, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, what's going on? It's like, what did they do? What's going on? And they're like, oh, every Wednesday we randomly pick a class, and then in that class we go into, every third student we pull out and we wand them. And I'm like, well, why are you wanding them? It's like, to see if they have a gun or this or that. And I said, have you ever found a gun or a knife or anything? No. How, you've never found it, but you keep doing it? Yeah, we heard in one school some kid had a knife. Yeah, probably a knife because it was in his lunchbox. You know,
like cutting an apple or something.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's like normal, like.
Exactly. And so it's like, and I was like flabbergasted, and I told my friends this. I'm like, this is crazy. This is crazy. Like this, like, and I just realized that they start instituting these things in schools to get people. Now that was 25 years ago, which means that those kids are in their 30s, and now what's happening now? They've been acculturated. They've been acculturated for decades for this stuff, and now that's the reason why you don't see a whole lot of pushback. People are just like doing, you know, whatever they want. The pushback is actually happening more in a Gen Z population, right? Than, I mean, not Gen Z, more in Gen X than it is happening in the younger populations. Why? Because if they went to regular traditional school, they're already, you know, they're already used to it. This is like normal life.
It's
So-
just, it's like, that's their reality. That's the only reality they know.
This is a millennial. Yeah, exactly. They don't know any different. This is the way it is. Like, so so this is my issue. And now people are saying that, you know, kids are complaining about being bullied and being even gaslit by their own parents, saying that, oh, you know, you're just making excuses, you're just doing this, you're just doing that. And then when they saw it happen, when they actually had, you know, the teachers, you know, they saw the way that the teachers were talking to their kids, they saw the way that the school boards were acting and reacting, they saw the way they actually experienced it themselves, then they just said, hell no. And now we have a growing community of people who are unplugging.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about,
This isn't just LA too, it's across the country. We've lost at least 6 to 10% of our kids here.
I'll tell you,
We get funded butts and seats. So it's like, you know, what's going to happen? Now they're already talking about how they're going to have to start firing people. They might have to close schools. They have it because so many kids. Now we have one of the biggest school districts in the country. We have the second biggest school district in the country, 600,000 kids. So when you're talking 6%, you're not talking, you're talking over 30,000 kids.
Yeah.
That's the amount, that's like 10 elementary schools.
Yeah.
Imagine, boom, 10 elementary schools closed down. And in what neighborhoods are those going to be? But everybody's pulling out. Where, what do we have all this stuff with? And so now we've got food prices rising. Where are they giving the free food away? In the schools. They're trying to lure you back. So that's so now we have something. It's supposed to go on the ballot next year because we have a referendum system here in California, that the money will follow the student. For something that the money follows the student, it doesn't go to the school.
Oh, they're
It goes
also
to the
yeah,
school.
they're also forcing vaccines for public assistance and for housing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing that here yet, but that's going. We're going to see what's going to happen. That's going to be bad if that happens. I can't imagine
They were,
people
yeah.
being
They
okay
were
with
forcing.
not
I
voting
think,
people out of office.
I think they did it to the Afghan refugees that came here after they
Oh,
pulled
they
out
did?
and whatever. Yeah, that was like one of the requirements was you had to get the COVID vaccine. Yeah, it's quite.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's like Jesus, like can't even. I don't like you know. And what are they gonna do? It's like I don't really have a choice.
We'll see how it affects the reproductive systems. They said it could affect the reproductive systems. They knew that.
Well, I mean,
Absolutely.
they've
The study's
deregulated
done
the
right
clinical
now.
studies. Yeah.
Yeah, that study's done right now showing that like 8 out of 10 within a particular time period, especially in the early trimesters. By the way, 60 years after it happened with thalidomide, they found out the reasons why and at what certain times that the kids were either dying or getting, or having through thalidomide as well. And it was when you gave it in the same time period. It was anywhere between like the 4th and 10th week of pregnancy.
Yeah.
And so this is like the first and beginning of the second trimesters. It's the same thing here. Almost all of the women are miscarrying or spontaneous aborting. Yeah.
They might not have even needed it.
So I don't see good things as far as our population rate. We may have anywhere to 10 to 100. I mean, like just the study I just told you about. The study I just told you about that happened in hospital. With
They're all gonna have babies that look like Mark Zuckerberg.
5 people dying. 5 people dying. All vaccinated. Out of 42 people in hospital, some of them full PPE. 5 people dying. That's 20%. In America, what do we have? 100,000 people, at least 150,000 people. Like if we had 20% of those people who are vaxxed dying within the next 3 years, we're talking huge population drop. What is that going to do to all of our systems? It's definitely going to take a hit to the pension system.
I think that's the main thing I feel like they would want to cull is they don't want to have to, not the pensions, but the Social Security.
Yeah, exactly.
When this whole thing was first happening, that was like one of my first few thoughts. I remember it was like February and I was hearing about all this stuff in like China and and then like the shit happened in Seattle, right? That's where it started, or California. And I'm like, oh shit! Like they're trying to get rid of grandpa and grandma.
Yeah.
Like seems like that's what it is. And then you saw what happened in New York. I'm not trying to be insensitive about it. I think it's fucking horrific, but it's like it just made sense as far as the way that I think, the way that I believe they think. Yeah.
You mean giving Cuomo the Emmy?
You
mean giving Cuomo the Emmy?
Yeah, exactly. As he's like shoving COVID patients into nursing homes and then saying like, I don't know what's going on in New York. It's like, oh, well, maybe because you made these decisions that are awful.
The political theater was intense.
Yeah. While he was getting all the love.
Yeah, I don't
from the mainstream.
I don't get it. So at some point, people are just going to like everyone's going to be suspect. And it reminds me of that scene in that Batman movie where Bane goes and like all the bankers go and they have to walk on the ice across like the Hudson.
I didn't see it, but
they have to walk across the ice and then they just fall in the water. It's like their version of the guillotines. It's like it's kind of like, we can't trust you. If you're involved with this, then you're on the chopping block. And so I don't know, if there's just going to be like how many people are just going to.
You can't really trust anyone. We have to hold everybody has to work together to keep each other accountable.
Who's gonna go away? I mean, everybody loves the internet, so that's so people don't want that to go away.
but what are these systems that people, that are not, what are we going to do to say, okay, we don't want this anymore? For me, I just feel that um, uh, I'm really into alternative energy systems. I'm really into alternative architecture. I'm really into all of, housing for all. And I'm really into, basically educational choice and educational freedom.
Good.
And I think that we need to start developing systems. It's not enough for us to bitch. You know what I mean? It's like knowing how these things are and what these things move. It's great because then it lets me know what I want to support and what I don't want to support. Right now, I'm not, as when I told you when I heard about what Tulsi said, it was so disturbing to me. I was just like, okay, I can't support Tulsi until she comes back to her senses. Until there's some sort of wake up call with her because something's wrong here, But
why would she say something like that? Like she's got it. Do you think that she doesn't know what effect it would have? What do you think about that? Or do you think she was trying to make a play for, like, yeah, go, like she thought that she was gonna get like great response to that?
It says a lot that she was promoted within the military. I didn't know that, and that gives
Lieutenant General, I think.
Yeah, it's like because you get promoted when you follow the company.
Politics.
It's a reward. A promotion is a reward.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she's she's following the company line. You know what they say. Their business is killing, and business is good, and they haven't really stopped that stuff. And the thing is, at some point there will be a balancing period, and then maybe that's a little bit, unknowingly, that she's kind of letting out of what's happening. It's like, these people are taking over, and that's really code for there's a balancing happening here. There's a balancing. We're not as strong, and there's multipolar things happening where other people have different interests, and we don't have domination of that anymore. What we see is a balancing, and we try.
No one's entitled to that domination, though.
Exactly.
That language, like, to me, I'm like, I'm not even going to work on that like, I won't even converse on that paradigm because the premise is already flawed. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's like I cannot operate on a flawed, like, just a farce of a premise and give it more legitimacy. Like, no one's entitled to that. It's fair. That's just kind of where I come from. It's like I won't even, like, I'm not going to address it in the way that, like, they're talking about it because it already doesn't make sense.
Right, exactly.
So it's like just kind of
entitled to domination. Yeah. Right, exactly. No one's entitled to domination. But the thing is that other countries and other interests are rising in the world, and what's happening is that what we had, earlier, what is in the 70s, this sort of teeter-totter effect with Russia, and it's different interests, or at least not, I shouldn't say Russia, I should say the Soviet Union, but that was never really an even fight because we had a lot of interests. Now the fight is definitely multipolar because we have different interests. The thing is, their interests are suspect too. It's kind of suspect when they want to do the same, like, economic, hitman type of things in these.
I mean, Russia works very closely with Israel and Mossad. I mean, like that. The Soviet Union was also close with that. It's almost like, even with the Cold War itself, the way that we've been told how it is, and even the alternative explanations that we've heard, like, I don't believe any of those. Quite frankly, to me, it almost seems like it was just a bread and circus type of, like, oh, Russia or the Soviet Union and the U.S. or NATO, whatever, like, kind of fighting with each other. But really, it's like they're just trying to all kind of have this race for like the technology, as far as whether it be like the chips that they make, right, in in Israel now, right? They make a lot of that surveillance technology that comes out of Israel, that Russia is very close to, right? And China, so and the U.S. So it's like, where is the fight? Like, where do they actually disagree? Like, is this a joke? You know what I'm saying? It's like
He's interested. There's no permanent friends or permanent enemies. There's only permanent interests. And the thing is that
in global capital, right?
It's like, they're quasi-governmental. That's why they're quasi-governmental. They're para.
I don't trust any of them. I don't like any of them
because they're almost like a separate thing that's like that hovers over and like. And you're right. It's not like the Russians have a whole lot of like integrity when it comes to. I would say that Iran has more integrity than Russia does when it comes to those things. What they're doing, the reason why the Russians are there is because they're helping them build their basically exploit their gas fields that they have. Basically, what do they call it? Leviathan. They found huge gas reserves outside in the waters of Israel, but also a lot of those waters are supposed to be Palestinian, and so they know that there are reserves in Gaza. There's no other reserves in that. That's the reason why when they pulled out of Gaza, I don't think that they knew this, because there's no way that they would have pulled out if they had known that those reserves were there. And so they're going to start basically side drilling or doing whatever. Why do you think they keep attacking those flotillas that come in? Because they're sailing through the waters where they're going to be drilling in the future. And if people see that, it's like they'll put 2 and 2 together. It's like, oh, this is the real reason why you're doing all this shit. You know, they want to. So this is really what's going on. You know, and the thing is, you know what I mean. I think that a lot of Americans don't realize when they think of Russia, I don't know if they see them as a huge energy supplier, but when it comes to
and arms
Europe,
too.
it's the energy supplier, like
Germany and everything,
like it's
and it's not coming from like a anti-Russia, like Russiagate was real kind of point of view. It's like just speaking it back.
No,
like,
that's
you can look at the contract.
They'll go wherever their bread is buttered. It's not like they have like any kind of like it's not
moral,
like exactly. There's no moral code. It's like they'll go wherever they'll go wherever their bread is buttered.
Just like the NATO countries. So that's why it's like I don't really see anybody as very different. Like I just don't really. I mean, there's degrees, right? Like there's degrees of awful, but it's like I don't know. Just there is no like good guy Putin fighting for you. Like give me a break. You know what I'm saying? It's like, or Xi Jinping. It's all of these guys. It's like there is no.
Cracking me up. Those tankies cracking me up.
It
grass
just
is always greener on the other side.
Yeah, I think everybody has problems, So because I see the people who like don't do way too much propaganda for whether it be China or Russia, and the same way that people do way too much propaganda for the U.S. or the UK or NATO countries. So it's like to me, it's like two sides of the same coin. At the end of the day, the people that are the most disenfranchised in all of those countries suffer the most. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's like silly to. Because Ed, sometimes the people that were around were just sitting there like, no, Putin's not that. Like, Putin's more rational, or like whatever. It's like, okay, cool. Like
he's more rational about certain things when he talks about stuff happening in the Ukraine and saying that, hey, what NATO is doing is just going to basically start an arms race, and so like, do you really want to do this? And the thing is that they just For the most part, they just put up their hands and they're like, all right, you want a war, we're going to plan for it. And they are ready. They are ready. And so is China. They are ready. And so they think that because they consider Americans to be like loose cannons, and we act crazy. And now the rest of the world has seen us basically pull a Saigon, in Afghanistan. They saw the chaos that was there. And so people who are on the fence, should we go the way of the Chinese? Should we go this way? Should we go that way? They're all turning away from the U.S. Why? As much as they have their issues with other things. Why? Because they see how Americans will come into a particular, arena.
Talking about China and America, talk about North Korea for a second. Notice that Kim Jong, or whatever his name is, has been silent for a while. You know what I mean?
Is his sister running things now? Like, what's going on with that?
Nobody knows, but he's been missing for a minute.
No, he's alive. He's been around.
Yeah, you seen him recently? When was the last time you seen him?
Yeah, he's back.
He's thinner.
Yeah, something's going on.
So maybe he was sick.
They say
Yeah.
he's sick from radiation. Honestly, it's very easy to kill someone with radiation.
Hmm.
Radiation
You
is
can do a lot.
silent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frequency. There's also frequency weapons, like targeted.
Very
the,
easy. Yeah, when he went to
there's a lot of
fucking
different-
Olympics, he could easily have gotten got.
But apparently, from what I was reading, like what goes on in between China and North Korea is basically the purview of a handful of Chinese businessmen. Like they have interests there, and what a lot of the policies are still being driven by basically business, finance interests. So, 'cause it's, I mean,
It seems to be the common denominator with a lot of these.
yep. I mean,
Yeah.
look at what Iran, like, Russia and China, they don't care that much that Iran is isolated. Why?
Yeah.
Because those are markets that they have that are almost completely theirs. With
Yeah.
no
I mean,
competition.
Iran has a great relationship with Russia for the most part, from the official, from their official. But like
Pretty
you were
good,
saying, it's
pretty
a
good
market.
relationship. Chinese have a great relationship with the Iranians. Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
China's gonna make a move on Taiwan
Cuba
soon.
too.
What do you think?
They could.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't support either party on that. If Taiwan wants to be their own thing, like sure, okay. Like I don't like who am I to have an opinion on that? But at the same time, it's like it shouldn't be at the behest of the U.S. Like the U.S. kind of championing this. It's like no, that would have to come from Taiwan, and not Silicon Valley and other global business interests. But I feel like that's kind of where that's coming from. But I'm sure that there's plenty of people in Taiwan that do not want to be ruled by the Chinese government. So it's like, you can't dismiss those people either and just say like, oh no, you just want America to save you. It's like, no, maybe they just don't want either. You know what I'm saying? Like there are some people who just don't want either. Like why are there only two choices?
Right.
Like, so I mean it's the same thing with Hong Kong, right? With their protests and how that was kind of quelled and the NED involvement in that, like the Soros funding, whatever. But then there's also the people that like genuinely just don't want, they don't like the CCP or whatever. So I feel like all of those people should get support.
I think that's a high chance for the next world war coming in Asia
Mm.
with China's aggression. The U.S. just has a new nuclear sub treaty with Australia, right?
Yeah, I did see the AUKUS thing. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
could be. I mean, it'd be silly.
Yeah, also
I don't
like
even blame. But then it's like it's not even just China though. It's like the NATO countries are completely unhinged. So it's like
I thought the podcast would be like telling us all about what's going on with all this weirdo shit. You know what I mean? I thought that's what Tulsi podcast could be, but I don't. She just posted another. This is behind the scenes, and this is me surfing. We're not gonna hear about that. You know what I'm talking about, right? We're not gonna get to hear the real behind the scenes nitty gritty, like what's really going on. That's what everybody was.
well, of
hoping
course not.
we
She's
would
still
get.
working for the machine.
Right.
Yeah,
She got a
so-
promotion.
Yeah, that's.
She's a good girl. She got her treat.
Yep.
She did her time.
Yeah.
She could rest.
Play ball and you get rewards.
Right. Right. I mean, I
What's she do?
I
Supposed to be
agree
me?
with you. I agree with you in the fact that she decided not to run third party. Though if she did run third party, it probably would have handed Trump. It would have definitely handed Trump the presidency. So because she would have split the vote, a lot of people would have voted for her, but she wouldn't have gotten the majority. It would have then gone to the representatives, and there are more Republican representatives than.
I think they would have rigged it anyway, just like they always do. That's why I just don't even. I mean, the fact that they say Joe Biden, and it's not because I think Trump was like better in any way, but like that Joe Biden got more votes than Obama. Like, I
Listen,
mean, that was just.
listen.
I don't even, bro.
More
Like,
people,
this
more
sounds
black
real
people
Shady.
voted for Joe Biden
Shady information right here.
than for Obama. Okay, all right. So you could have had the
More
historically
more
first.
black-
More black people vote for Joe
More
Biden
black people would vote for Joe
than
Biden.
for Obama. I just want you to know that. Okay. Yeah.
To me, it's
They
like
knew-
They already knew that.
They
Joe
knew
was
their black
gonna get in.
identity was at stake. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, right? Yeah. They knew Corn Pop was a bad dude, so they knew.
Yeah, Corn Pop was a bad dude.
So they
It's
knew
true.
they had to, yeah. So they had to vote for Biden.
that's what I'm saying. It's like I feel like that's probably why she didn't even go after Joe. You know, she went after Kamala and did her like, you know, her thing. It was like, wow, she destroys Kamala, like great, right? And then it's
I
like, but how
did
about
like
Joe?
that.
Because he's
I
over here.
did like
Yeah, no, it was great, and she looked cute in her white suit. Like
She
I was
did.
into it, but
It
like
was.
then you don't say anything about Joe. Like, and you, like, he was
Actually,
the one.
she was defending Joe at the time, right?
She
because
was
Kamala
defending
went
Joe.
at
Remind me
with
about
the
her loyalty.
what was that again? That little girl
Misplaced
was me.
loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
And then and
Lion,
then
like
the
he always
commentator asked Tulsi
Lioness.
to go in for the kill, and Tulsi said, "We're not going after Joe Biden. We're going after Kamala."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she basically saved Joe with that.
Yeah, she did. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting?
Oh well.
But it's like everyone's caught up in like, oh look, she destroyed Kamala, that you don't realize. And I didn't realize it either until I'm like looking back now, and I'm like, this bitch was a psyop.
She knew how to play the game. She knew how to play the game well. In fact, on the ground, we were really weak, right? I was like, why isn't there and nothing going on? And then she'd be able to make the news in some way that gave me hope that, you know, something would actually happen. Because I was like, yo, this is a fucking stellar performance right here. But that stellar performance did nothing, which is weird because historically, we could see that, you know, people talk about JFK, blah, blah, blah. Historical performances like that should be, right? But this time it didn't happen. The Pete Buttigieg thing, come on, like, you know, the exit polls.
He was a joke. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that
Dominion thing.
yeah. No one,
There's
no one
a,
trusts. Oh, in Iowa, like the Iowa.
there's a
thing?
new level of control going on. Remember what
Yeah.
me and Elisa told you, right? Yeah, the NDAs.
It's
that
like
are
it's different
spreading.
layers of control. I feel like, you know. Like,
I think it's
almost
the
like
corporate
layers
campaign
of gatekeeping.
consultants. Yeah, a lot of the candidates that I've talked to, they don't really know what's going on. But the consultants behind the thing who they're talking to are like kingmakers. You get what I mean? And they're controlling things behind the scenes.
Mm.
It's not good.
No, it's not.
Actually, in February, we're trying to take over New York. We'll see if we can get some people up for that. That would be cool. They're having the city county chairmanship position, so we're just gonna try to mob it up and just get some rando, get some rando in there. yeah, that would be great.
They'll get rid of him real quick.
Yeah,
Send her
I heard they
back.
did it in
Prove
like Nevada or some shit, didn't they? Didn't they like take over with burning people and they fucking ejected like the establishment left and got all mad?
Yeah, didn't they vote for like they voted in like a dead person?
I don't know.
It
They
was
did
some, like,
something.
county.
They
It
did
was,
something.
yeah, some district in Vegas, in Nevada.
There's
That was
another
funny.
one they got like the burning person in, and then the establishment got mad and the people left. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
No.
Interesting though.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We'll see if that
Anyway.
happens. It'll be a struggle.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens when these systems start falling apart? And they will. And when
They are.
when the falling apart happens, it'll happen slowly at first, and
Mhm.
then all of a sudden rapidly. And people will, you know, people will be like flustered. What do I do? What do I do? I think that we need to. I gotta go in a minute. But we, you know, again, I think what we can do is to get people to do certain actions. You got to get out of like the big banks. You got to get into a credit union. You got to get into a public bank. That's where you need to do all of your banking. You need to do you need to get your money systems out of that, and then start, you know, basically securing yourself in all the ways that you can.
Mhm.
But you know, in a very basic way, it comes down to money.
It does.
And so,
In the most basic level, yeah.
right. And so, where you spend your money, and who you give your money to, and circulate it. You know, have your systems be local, and support people who you can create networks with.
Cool.
You know,
Hell
Super
yeah.
super important.
All right.
These things to be there. I get, you know, California is, you know, a really great place for these things to happen. Number one is
I'm
because
coming to Cali at some
we're-
point. Yeah, at some point.
Yeah. Well, and we still we own our own municipal. Like unlike several other big cities, we actually own our own municipal company. So because of that, that's the other thing my girl Nithya wants to do, is to have a public internet. So we'll have it, and it'll be via our electrical lines. And so because we have our own municipal utility, we can do that and then offer everybody really great fast internet, have it all over the city, not just in the white areas, and have everybody be able to have something that will, like, super fast internet at a great price, like $15 or $10 or whatever, or free, and then to be able to have these systems really going and working for us, working for the people. Because right now,
I'm with it. All right, cool.
too
All
much
right,
of
so
the-
I'm gonna bring this show to an end, but thank
Okay.
you very much for coming by, and I'll catch
you
up
for
with y'all
having me.
soon. All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks,
All right. Thank you.
right on, says.
Peace.
Bye, Ed.
Ed. Bye.
It's a dark day in our nation when high-level authorities will seek to use every method to silence dissent. The truth must be told.
And if you want the truth, you need to check out independent media producers just like myself, DJ Elf7. You should subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notifications when I release a new video.
Truth of these
We are on
words
all
is
the major
beyond doubt.
platforms. That includes Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube. Unfortunately, we have definitely seen that these mainstream outlets will cave to corporate interests, so we encourage you to join our independently moderated communities of Reddit and Discord. We also encourage you to subscribe to us on BitChute and Dailymotion so you can see the content that YouTube doesn't want us to let you see. Hey, now it's time for the most important part of the video. That's right. It's time for us to tell you about the Taking Action group. Do you need an activist? Or maybe there's no activists around willing to help you with your cause and you need to learn to become an activist. That's exactly why we're here. Every week we get up with people from across the nation, in fact even sometimes internationally, and we develop strategies and a game plan to address the issues that are affecting all of us. Every week myself from New York City and of course my co-host Lisa from Los Angeles provide a coast-to-coast perspective on what's going on in the country. If you want to donate to help out with expenses, travel, equipment, stuff like that, then I definitely appreciate it, and you can hit us off at Venmo or PayPal. Thanks a lot. Hey, by the way, we also have a merch store, so check it out. Oh my goodness, it seems like you've reached the end of the video, so make sure you check out some of our other videos, make sure you subscribe. This is your last chance to do so thanks a lot, and looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please comment below if you have any questions or issues you'd like me to address. And if you're an activist, the time to make things happen is now.